Hello, and welcome to Talking Crit, where Bad Mike, my better half,
That's
my my work spouse, and all right,
Sure. No.
I'm just
Okay,
yeah,
I'll give it to you. I'll give you that.
yeah,
No.
at least once a week for like 2 hours.
Mhm.
And myself, Eric Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR. We talk crit about the gaming industry, the OSR, and beyond. And this is going to be the follow up to last week's, should I call it the TSR fiasco episode that we did? Because I don't know. It
It's
seems the dumpster fire
our
has now
best,
added.
our most
Uh,
watched episode ever. I think
has now added bags of shit to it. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
We got to
But
keep doing shit.
yeah, but we're gonna try to focus more on the individuals and less on the propaganda, the political strife, the antagonism that is apparently part of the marketing ploy, because
Yep.
that helps nobody.
Politics is a absolute smokescreen here, folks. When you dig down to it, it's all about the company and what they said they're doing, and what they. Oh, and by the way, so this is unprecedented of us that we're doing 2 shows in a row about this, but. And then Eric and I want to make the point also that we're not going to do this. Is it for the summer, I think, unless something crazy happens to TSR. We're gonna
Right.
regulate. We're gonna regulate them to the what stupid has Watsy done this week. Well, we're gonna change it to what stupid has TSR done this week, and we'll cover.
Yeah.
But next week we have Tom Wilson on next week, who's going to talk about his Kickstarter, awesome Kickstarter, Back to Basics, which I've already backed at the highest level because it's awesome. And we're not going to spend all day on this. Stuff is pretty much what more is going to happen here, right? I mean, this is pretty much just the absolute, plane flying, and then it's hit, and we're right before they hit the ground. Pretty much, we're just
right. We're just waiting for. Well, as Mike told me now, I didn't even realize this, but out of the 4, what's it? The three chief officers and executive vice president at TSR. 2 of them have removed their Twitter accounts. So
yeah, they're circling the wagons now. The TSR account's still up, but I think that is LaNasa. He's not going to silence himself. He's not taking his Twitter off. But yeah, Deinhardt and Ernie have taken their Twitter offline after issuing a statement blaming Watsy for all their troubles.
Which I think
it's all Watsy's fault. It's Watsy's fault.
It's hilarious.
So, yeah.
You're thumbing your nose in Watsy's face by saying, "Hey, we're going to take all your trademarks. We're going to redraw them so you can't hit it with the copyright, but we're going to muddy the marketplace." And by the way, part of that was offering these trademarks for sale or rent to other publishing companies. So, do you want to publish a product and use the TSR trademark on it? Now, this was a publishing ploy going back to last October, which, by the way, I got some fun screenshots from last October.
Oh, you have? Do you have those receipts, Eric? By any chance?
I have receipts because,
of course, you do.
And by the way, I was told that anybody who takes incessant screenshots of conversations is not just paranoid but an asshole. And I don't know if I'm an asshole, but I'm certainly obnoxious with a voice almost like
it's smart to do. Nails on a chalkboard.
Yeah, almost. They're not quite.
Almost like that.
I'm working on it. I figure. By the way,
close.
If there was annoying background noise, I will apologize. It is still 91 degrees after hitting 98 today in New York City. And now my AC sounds like it's drawing enough power. Before it sounded like.
I just turned on my AC because I'm freezing here in Texas. I don't know what this is like. The mildest summer we've had forever. It's like, well, I think it was the 90s this week, but it's actually not horrible this year. I feel sorry for you guys in the Northeast and Northwest. You guys are getting hammered, and this is like business as usual for us. So we're just like, wow, it's actually raining. It's raining the last few days. It's cool. It's nice. So yeah, I'm sorry this happened to you guys.
Yes, James. We can make a poll of that in the afterwards, and people can vote it up or no. I will say I'm impressed by the LaNasa troll brigade. There's at least 3 people in it that like to come in now and downvote the videos and say I put them to sleep, and then come back to say that I'm an asshole, and then come back to say other stuff that apparently I didn't put them to sleep, but You go, guys. You go.
We had the
'Cause all
one
you
guy
do-
last week. We only had one last week. I'm just shocked that we only had one. The guy that told us to quit recommending 5e product when the 15 things I recommended were none of them were 5e. So
But
that
but Mike, you know what? That was already the opening of the game plan. The blame Wizards of the Coast for all your woes.
sure, it's all it's a plot.
Somehow, behind the scenes, Wizards of the Coast, which if they were involved would have issued a C&D and this would be done. But now, Wizards of the Coast is being named as the big baddie behind everybody being upset with TSR for being a bunch of.
Well,
Rachel's not here to fill in the words for me, so I won't say it. But
so just to backtrack a little bit. So last week we had our show about TSR and about how they bought a bunch of logos but no actual content, and they kind of insinuated they had content but they really didn't, and then they proceeded to go in the public marketplace and absolutely make fools of themselves by just really giving just terrible interviews, by not hiring a PR person to basically go and say, look, you really shouldn't say this, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't say trans people are monsters. I mean, just every just mistake that the most junior 12-year-old person that just got on Twitter would know not to do, or maybe not. I don't know. 12-year-olds.
It's like a Jeopardy question. Let's see. What's the answer? TSR. Oh, what not to do on social media. Good, excellent, congratulations! You won Double Jeopardy.
Don't sue the Dragonlance creators. Yeah, I mean that's kind of like these guys are just taking that ball and roll with it. So we're not. I mean, there's really no reason for us to just totally backtrack last week and just I mean you know the score. You know what's going on here. TSR, LaNasa bought the TSR logos last year. He's insinuated they're going to come up with all this great product that they are not really going to come out with.
Names people associated with the products that were like, huh?
We have Larry Elmore working for us. Larry Elmore's like, what?
Larry's yet to make a public statement.
Yeah, nobody. Jeff D.
Jeff D. was like, "Yeah, here's your money back." And by the way, not if Jeff listens and hears this later, this is not an insult, Jeff. But you are a freelancer bordering on mercenary. You will work for anybody who's willing to pay, and for you to tell somebody take your fucking money back. That's a huge statement.
Well, because you still don't want to be associated. I mean, certain people you just don't want to be associated with, and the problem is, what the sad part is, and Eric and I were talking about this earlier, is that the people that are still going down with the ship really have very little choice. And we're talking about Jim Ward, Jeff Leeson, Ernie Gygax. Let's explain this a little bit. They're older gentlemen. They have no retirement. They have health issues. They're getting a paycheck, and they're not going to give the money back. They don't have any alternatives. I mean, if you notice, Jim was just selling off some really valuable stuff on eBay last month or so. I mean, he's got diabetes, lost his legs, he's in a wheelchair, he has no money. I mean, these guys are not going to give the money back. They're going to try to make the best they can with a really terrible hand. And now we'll say something for Jeff. Jeff's not going to go out there and say the long, rambling, weird stuff that Ernie said. But Jim issued a statement today that basically said, "Look, I'm sorry you feel bad." It was like a non-apology apology. It was like, "I'm sorry if we hurt anybody's feelings, but here's the deal. I wrote Giant Lands a couple years ago. I'm going to promote it, and sorry." I mean, what else can he do? I mean, he can't say, "Here's your money back." By the way, I got to pay a doctor's bill next week because I got to have my leg exfoliated. I mean, it's just not going to happen. These guys they don't have a lot of options. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Some guys do. Some guys have more options. I mean, Jeff D's still working. He's a great artist. He still does work. He can make the money back somewhere. These guys can't. They have massive health bills that they can't pay, and so it's sad. But they're not going to they're not going to back too far away from this train wreck. Especially Ernie, because Ernie at this point, he's committed, right? I mean,
in for a penny, in for a pound.
Yeah, he's right in the middle of this. I mean, he's had everybody from his brothers to his sister to everybody come out and say, "Look, you need to." I mean, his friends, Benoit. I mean, all his guys are like, "Look, you just got to back away, man. Or you just got to, not say the things you're saying." He's doubled down. He absolutely doubled down. And
Yeah.
his stuff is very rambling and very not professional, and really could use a PR person or a marketing person to say, look, don't say this. Let's play this part up more. Let's not talk about this over here. And he just doesn't have access to any of that. And so that's why we have the stuff we have. But as Eric said, we're going to mostly focus on, but like I said, politics aside, and you could judge politics however you want. I think everybody knows how we stand. I don't feel like we have to say I'm not a communist, nor have I been a communist, nor do I know any communist type of statement. I mean, if you look at the guests for North Texas, we support trans people. We have them as guests all the time. I don't feel like I have to go down and name names just to get cred. Street cred. I mean, and so we're not gonna talk about the politics. We're mostly gonna talk about why we think this guy LaNasa is a grifter, and why we don't. And this is the main problem with it. It doesn't have anything to do. The people that are following him, like as Eric says, like lemmings.
You're all lemmings, goddamn.
Is that they don't understand the situation, or they are of the school that this guy is.
I can't hear you. I'm not listening. I don't want to know. All I know is that they're anti-wizards of the coast, and they're against somebody.
And that's what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with people that are like, the right people don't like LaNasa, so he must be right. That is a terribly flawed law. That's terribly flawed logic, folks. You can be, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I mean, I love David Bowie. David Bowie's probably one of my favorite, he's probably my favorite artist of all time. I just think he's an amazing creative person. But if it came out that he was, saying, I think Roman Polanski's a great human being and should be invited to my birthday party, I would say, I like Bowie, but man, that is a bad take, and that's wrong. Bowie's passed away, by the way. I know Bowie can't say this, so he's gone.
But if he could come back from the dead and say
I would have to throw him under the bus and say,
kind of like TSR supposedly coming back from the dead, right? It's the same.
So just because somebody you don't like is against somebody doesn't mean that person's the enemy of your enemy is not your friend. Sorry, that's not how it works.
They're still your enemy.
And so I've seen a lot of comments that LaNasa. We had I think the pundit did a video this week where LaNasa is really a piece of garbage, and he went on to detail how LaNasa is a piece of garbage. But I'm gonna support him because he got the wrong people angry or the right people angry. Come on, man, you're better than that pundit. That's just flawed logic, and sorry.
It's also a little bit clickbaitish, but
it's the pundit. He's got to get clicks. So yes.
Aaron the Pendantic has a good statement and a good question here. I wrote Giant Lynch a couple of years ago. Doesn't sound much like he's working on it. Well, the TSR Games account says Jim is burning the midnight oil, and here's the easy answer on that. If you read Ernie's comments. Ernie has said, well, your Giant Lands will be our first product. However, it's not quite at the point where we can publish it.
Not good.
And it needs a lot of work. So Ernie was basically throwing Deinhardt and Jim Ward under the bus when he said that. So
James Thomas. Okay, I got a little bullet.
Well, no, I've got my Fleischmann's really horrible whiskey, but I turned it into a Fireball low carb, so it's a lot less horrible.
Nice.
But next one I'm going to be doing Tullamore Dew because I need to do. You're right.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
by the way, Ty, Skeeter, John, Fugly.
Yeah, I'm trying to catch up in the comments.
Everybody, yes. But yeah, what you were saying is right. That's correct, Eric. Is that this may still be being worked on. And I also, if they're serious at all about publishing it, they're probably going to be playtesting it at some point or running games of it up at the Dungeon Hop Museum. So I think I saw somewhere online where it said that they're actually Jim Ward is doing a playtest of this in the fall. So
in the fall now Skeeter TSR 3.0 is bad for other small publishers, and that is correct. Just like Kickstarters like Far West, like Brave Halfling, hell, even like Gary Gygax Jr.'s Memorial Tomb or Judges Guild. All these things make people look at Kickstarter and go, oh, fuck, I shouldn't give them money. Well, yeah, you know what? TSR is doing the same thing. And that's the reason why we're trying to address things. And again, we're trying to I'm not going to guarantee we can avoid all the political drama and bullshit that TSR has brought into the game plan, because it's been their game plan from the start. But we want to stress, you don't need to look at the politics to see that the issues behind this are bullshit. All right, that the main person behind it is, in my humble opinion, and it's my opinion, and I'm allowed to it, is a fucking grifter and a carpetbagger. But I'm sure if LaNasa has issues with that, he'll threaten me with
it all comes down to the
legal
fact,
action.
It all comes down to this. What is his old school cred? Has he ever run an old school convention? Has he published any old school stuff? Has he written any old school things?
Does he blog? Does he podcast? Does he YouTubes?
What product does he have? If I wanted to buy some LaNasa product right now, what would I buy?
Tabletop for tots or something like
that.
There's
nothing out. There's
it's
no
not
there.
Out. It's not out. It's something that,
there's no there. There's no there. As was famously said about Cleveland, there's no there. There isn't. There's just nothing there. There's a lot of talk, and we're gonna have TSR Con, no dates set. We're gonna do this. We're gonna have Star Frontiers come out. Well, Star Frontiers, there's nothing written yet. I mean, it's all wishful thinking, and so I know he's got a lot of people. I mean, look. I mean, there's a place there you can go where they, the TSR. I shouldn't give him any publicity, but it's a fun place to go. Is the TSR Facebook page. Hate to give it any pub, but you go there and there's a bunch of people there that are 100% on board, man. They're just like, hey, this is great. TSR's back. I can't wait to buy old school product. I'm going to support these guys. I'm going to go out there and buy 10 box sets of Giant Lands because it's awesome. Giant Lands, the really old school game, right, Eric? It's extremely old school.
Okay, now folks, I'm going to put this link in the description when we wrap this up. I was going to try to play it, but Mike had a good point. It's a horrible quality video, but it is Deinhardt at the Harvard Business School giving a presentation. It's about a 2-minute clip, so it won't waste much of your time. You won't hate yourself afterwards because you could be doing something more productive, like, I don't know, taking a shit, because there won't be enough time for that. However, you'll get to see Deinhardt in full costume give his presentation. He looks like a Sith from Star Wars, giving this presentation, and all I can think of is, this is the D&D that I played. Yeah,
giving Harvard. So if you ever wondered why Harvard is completely out of touch with anything in America, it's the guy named Deinhardt dressed in a costume giving a lecture about what the future of gaming is about. Because, and those guys probably walked out there saying, man, this is some cutting edge stuff.
Yeah.
That's why you can't trust Harvard or Yale on anything.
No, you can't. Yes, Ken. I actually watched the Lake Geneva. Now that's an hour and a half I couldn't get back in my fucking life. I swear to God, I could have made it a drinking game of just eyes have it. Yeah. Not only that, LaNasa also got a $10,000 grant from some commission for the museum. So yes, the museum got the okay. But that's
the for-profit museum. By the way, the difference between a profit and no profit is if I donate something to a nonprofit, that means I get it back someday. They say, hey, we'd like your, I think Alex Kager has donated a brown box to a museum in Seattle, and they have it on display. And when they give it back, they'll give it back. A nonprofit,
not quite. That's something that's on a loan. Here, the thing is, with a nonprofit, you donate something. Guess what? That's a tax benefit for you. You donated to a charitable. In this case, and I'll be showing the receipts to this later. When LaNasa was asked back in October, is this museum a non-for-profit? He came back and somebody said, well, if it's not for profit, then our donations are tax deductible. His answer was, yes, that's a good idea, but wouldn't come out and say it's a non-profit. He was basically saying, yes, lie on your tax return that you donated to a nonprofit. That's basically what, but again, I will show you the receipts because
it's not
with LaNasa, you need receipts. I have the receipts because for those of you who might be watching in the legal profession, I don't know how legal it is to threaten people with legal action like libel, slander, and fraud, and then you never follow up on it because you're full of shit and you're just trying to shut people down with the threat of. And I've been threatened by the best folks. I make no secret of that. And if anybody wants to list in private, because I don't want to air it out and name names besides people like Gail and Ken Whitten, which we all know.
Right.
But I'm more than willing to give out receipts on that too in private, because if you threaten me with legal action for doing something that I know is completely legal, it means you're hiding shit. And I know. Okay? Remember, my prior occupation. So, but I hand the ball back to Mike. Sorry, I meant the rant. And
I'm correcting something here. Hold on. It was actually Oakland that Gertrude Stein said there's no there there. Not, I didn't mean to say something bad about Cleveland. Cleveland's a vibrant, awesome city.
Oh, it's the dying city of Cleveland? Okay.
It's by the mistake by the lake is a great city, but it was actually Oakland that Gertrude Stein
All
said
right,
there's no
all right,
there.
hold on. I just got to Fugli's comment. So I am going to take a brief intermission from Mike because I have this set up.
Oh, okay.
I figured we should look at this. So here we go. Because I talked to George after this happened. George, Dietrich, I am really sorry for the post that I have to make. Justin LaNasa was not happy about the no more TSR rule we put up. And that was because TSR and the Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum were spamming the community multiple times per day with, ooh, look at our stuff. Ooh, more dice. Ooh, look at us. Oh, what's your favorite D&D character? All this stuff. And they're like, dude, just, if you're not adding to the conversation, you got to stop it. He made the comment at one point that he thinks that since he has TSR as a trademark, he can essentially tell the groups on Facebook with TSR on the name to do whatever he says. He wasn't happy about the no TSR rule, and he threatened to have the group removed from Facebook, and then threatened us to take down the graphic that we used for the first edition TSR logo, with all of the other first edition art compiled into it. He told me point blank, we had 48 hours to remove it or else. Now, by the way, this is June 27th at 10 a.m. He put this up, so we are well over the 72-hour mark. So I guess Justin, no. When he made the threat, I immediately told him that I could not and would not talk to him any longer, since he's threatening legal action. The artwork is not coming down unless Facebook says to take it down or tells us to take it down. We will also not change our name for the same reasons. Now, it should be noted, other Facebook groups did change their names because Justin made the threat. Mm-hmm. Again, when it comes to this stuff, and Justin knows it, because remember, he threatened his legal opponent last year with copyright infringement for using his women wrestling and grits clip, which would have definitely been under fair use, but he threatened it anyway because a lot of times threats, people go, I don't have the time or the money to fight a threat, whether it is legitimate or not, of legal action. That's why they make these threats. It would be a cold day in hell that let anyone make demands of us or threaten us. I'd also like to point out that Justin LaNasa is no longer a part of the group, nor his account with the Dungeon Hobby Shop. It's unfortunate that it's come to us, but I'll always defend the group no matter what. Now is a time, of course, where rules lawyers would be great to have. Yes. Mm-hmm. And so like I said, folks, I had that one lined up because that was just, it shows you, shows me, certainly, without a doubt, Justin's mindset, where he is, and what he thinks he has in the hands he has to play. And if you call him on it, he doesn't have much of a hand to play, apparently.
This is very similar to all the Kickstarter people that Eric eventually calls out, for not doing Kickstarters. The first thing they roll to is, I'm going to sue you.
Yeah.
That's all. There's nothing that the Emperor's not wearing, because that's all they can say is, I'm going to sue you. They can't sue you, and they won't sue you, but they say it because that's just that's their go-to line. That's their go-to is, I'm going to sue you now, because it does scare some people off. Some people can't take some people just get scared when it comes to anything like, I might get sued, I might lose stuff. They get worried. I think in this case, Eric and I know a little bit about the legal system. We actually have lawyer friends and have dealt with legal matters. We know that it's actually extremely difficult to sue somebody. Even Zach Smith knows that. He's tried to sue people, and the suits have got booted. Now, he's done really well in Canada and Australia and UK, where they don't have free speech, but in New Zealand. But when it comes to America, there's pretty wide leeway on what you can say about somebody. And what you can insinuate, especially if you say it's my opinion. Once you put my opinion in front of it, you're pretty much golden, as long as you're not saying, X is certainly a rapist. That
Or
then they might bring you to court and say, okay, prove that he's a rapist. You can't. I mean, is he really a rapist? But if you say, in my opinion, Bill Cosby's a rapist.
Yeah,
there you go. In my opinion, Bill Cosby, of course, I mean, is a rapist, and Bill Cosby can't really sue me because it's just my opinion.
Oh, and also he's a public figure. Ty Beard, and it's a good point. The new TSRs threaten to sue everyone. Well, they are being faithful to their heritage.
Yes, because the old TSR in the early 90s, when the internet was a thing, they sent out reams of C&D letters to anybody that had anything about Dungeons & Dragons up on their brand new website or blog site. And for the most part, people would take them down because they didn't know. They thought, I don't want to get sued by TSR. And that was a strategy of Lorraine Williams, just to basically carpet bomb anybody that had anything on their site. And yes, some people probably had some illegal stuff up there. But, for the most part, people would just write about their new character. I have something, I have a new paladin class. And then they get a C&D letter from TSR. You need to take this down. This is, whether it was legally binding or not. In most cases, it probably wasn't. But they got scared. People got scared. And they had a lawyer and retainer that was able to waste his time sending these letters out. So, that's sad when you have somebody that does something like that. But in this case, no. Yeah, it's Ty's the we're going to appoint Ty the lawyer of the of Talking Crit of this the official legal of Talking Crit.
With the unofficial official. We don't want an official because that official becomes
we don't want to put him in a corner there.
Right.
But yes, what he says is true. Yeah, I think that's what a lawyer, Ty could probably attest this. That's the first thing a lawyer's going to tell you when you get mad and you roll in there and say, this guy, I was at the grocery store the other day and he called me an a-hole. I want to sue him. The first thing a lawyer's going to pull is like, okay, you're willing to spend $10,000. Whoa, why? Well, that's what you got to pay me. You got to pay me, and this is what it's going to cost, and it's probably going to be more than that. I remember hearing, this is just rumor. I don't know if it's actually true. But for instance, the Gygax suit, when Ernie and Luke were sued by Gale over the magazine Gygax, I heard the legal fees on both sides reached over $100,000. And that wasn't even that was just a little case. That was
it never went to
court.
It was never heard. This is just all the preliminaries, and then hashing out the bullshit agreement. Thou shalt never take thy lord Gale Gygax's name in vain. Oh my God! So we'll see how well that has happened. And that's the reason. That is the reason why Gygax magazine folded when you have no more Gygax. It's because they were all like, "I'm not signing this shit."
Yeah, they were asked to sign things, and yeah, that was a terrible situation. But yeah, that's what happens. Is that you spend a lot of money, and in more cases than not, it ends up to a settlement at the end, or somebody somebody has to sign an NDA, and then you never really figure out what happens or find out what happens. Money changes hands, as they say, and that's it. Then the case is over, and you don't really know what happened, But yeah, this is what happens, and yeah. So most times when people threaten to sue, it's just I don't know what it is. It's a stalling tactic. It's just a self-preservation thing. It's just where people go. That's where they go to. They say, "I'm going to sue you," and they hope you back off, because some people will. Some people will back off. But in this case, Eric has been threatened to. He's been threatened to be sued by people that are much. Look. At this point, even Whitman's got more on the ball than this guy. I mean, come on.
At least Ken tried multiple times to make that threat in different ways, and some amusing ways. Like sue me for copyright infringement for using his image, and I had to point out to him, because I happen to know the law a little bit better than he does, only because of the position I'm in. It's like, you don't own the copyright to your image. It's the photographer that owns the copyright. So if they have an issue, I will certainly take it down when they contact me. But in the meantime, I'm just going to put graphics of shit over your head in all these photos. And fine time was had by all. Oh, by the way, Kenny, if you were a pencil dice backer, Kenny has an update that you need to update your address, because Kenny, who's had this
any day now, those pencils are going to be hitting the mail.
He's had the pencil presser machine for the last 2 years or so, but now he says he's going to get these pencils out. And
this tells me,
be awesome.
Eric, this tells me that he has some legitimate business measure that he wants to do and he's going to try to seem like he's a good boy. I did do the pencil dice.
No. You got a word that I don't like to be used with the word named Ken Whitman. You just said legitimate. All right. I don't think that Kenny has done a legitimate piece of work in his life, at least in the last 20 years. All right. So let's not go that far. By the way, Randall Porter points out that Will Wheaton went all ape over TSR and Ernie, and I saw it and I gave it a quick read, and what I took out of it is that somebody who has over 2 million followers on Twitter is getting another anger brigade ready to burn down TSR.
Yeah, I think that's why Ernie and Deinhardt took their Twitter. I mean, there's got to be nothing more let down if you're the Twitter outrage brigade and you're going to hammer somebody and then their Twitter's down. Oh, you're just like, oh man, I was ready to just let loose on these guys. So I think that's a big reason why they issued a quick statement and then just took their Twitters down. Look, nobody needs Twitter anyway, but that's why they took it down, because they don't want to be steamrolled by 20 million followers of Will Wheaton,
Right.
But I mean, we're going to all during the show, we're going to go into like what a lot of people said during the week, and we've already touched on what Jeff D came out and said. Look, I don't support these guys, and here's your money back for the art I did. I wish I hadn't done the mark I already did, but there was a lot of responses. Luke had a response to what went on.
Luke had a couple of responses, and here's the thing.
And Ernie had a response.
Luke's responses went from measured to less measured to.
He's frustrated at this point. He's very frustrated.
By the way, I want to address James Carpio's comment about Deinhardt. Deinhardt does not look like an 80s wrestler. He looks like one of those Mexican wrestlers because he wears this costume with a full face mask and like a cape. So he looks like he should be. There was an RPG for Mexican wrestling. I'm surprised Deinhardt's not the one that came out. I think he looks like it is.
He'd be perfect for that.
He would be, man. Maybe that would be. I'm not saying it is, but maybe that's something that TSR should look into, because it might be,
okay, a man of honesty. My free advice worth every dime you pay for it. Exactly. That's why I love you. That's why we love you, Todd. So, and of course, Ernie issued a very infamous statement this week. We're really not going to go into that too much because that doesn't really have that much to do with TSR. That has more to do about Ernie, and we're really focused more on TSR and LaNasa and that whole business. We're not really going to spend a lot of time on it. That stuff's been just, I mean, what more can we say about it at this point? I mean, there's not much more we can say about it. And we're mostly here to talk about TSR and LaNasa. There's a lot of side treks here. There's a much bigger than us YouTube channel called Clownfish that everybody loves, that I was extremely disappointed in because they did two shows on this, and it would be like if Eric and I started talking about the hockey playoffs. Eric, let's talk about the hockey playoffs. Okay, so it's the Canadiens and the Islanders. No, it's Canadiens and the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I don't know the players.
And you know what?
I don't know who the goalie is. I have no clue.
Those teams are great, but the NFL sucks. I mean the NHL sucks because it controls the players, and it doesn't allow them to do what they want to do on the ice. And there's no more fights.
This is the quality. This is the quality of the kind of broadcast we would give in the hockey playoffs. That's the kind of quality broadcast these guys at Clownfish did about TSR. They didn't know anything, and so what they did was they ended up talking about Ernie for an hour. But Ernie does not. That's not the point. Ernie's a side trick. That's important, but it's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a guy here that came in, bought the TSR logo, insinuated that because of this he's going to publish a lot of cool product.
A carpet bagger, perhaps.
Yeah, but yet the only product he actually have is something called Giant Lands that is decidedly not old school. It's not old school.
But Giant Lands is Deinhardt. That's not LaNasa.
Right. It's not LaNasa, but that's their flagship product. That's their flagship product. Is Giant Lands.
Neither one of the two businessmen involved in this have any background in old school gaming. Until LaNasa bought the museum, did anybody know anything about him? Okay. That blows
he was
my
a failed politician from North Carolina who had some very, very dicey. Dicey.
Opinions. There we go.
So he was a failed politician, ran for several offices a few times. I don't even know what percentage of the vote he got. He was managed a grits wrestling team of his own employees. So he doesn't have any. There's no old school cred here. There's
No.
and so that's most of what we've been just going to the fact that this guy has nothing. There's nothing old school about him, and the people that are latching onto him because he bought the museum and because he owns the TSR logo. It's a wishful fantasy. There's if you expect something really old, I've seen some people saying this, and this bothers me too. Like, well, let's wait and see. He might have some really great ideas. Let's see what he's got, and then I'm going to judge it on that. Why? Why do you have to wait? The train's about to crash into the station. You don't have to wait and see the train actually hit the wall and blow up.
Well, no, you do if somebody likes to watch train wrecks. And there are a few people that I'm watching or I know of personally that are like rooting for TSR. And it's kind of like they want to see the world burn because the world has fucked them over. And it's like, I understand the sentiment. Mm-hmm. It's stupid, but I understand.
There's a whole outrage segment and a lot of it's because of the polarization of our society, but a lot of it has to do with the fact that the kind of thing is the enemy of my enemy is my friend type of thing. And so the problem is that's not always true, and you can go too far with it. Like I said, you could hate. Let's say I hate the media. Let's say you hate the media. I hate the media worse than anything. Well, every once in a while, the media might report on a story that actually has some merit. Does that mean you hate everything the media ever reports on? Because no, I don't trust the media. So anything they report on has to be wrong. Well, I'll tell you personally, I don't like the media. I think the media, for the most part, journalism has totally descended into this shock jock outrage. If it bleeds, it leads bullshit now. I think that's, if you turn on the news any night, you see this, and I don't like the media. I watch the news for the weather and the sports. The stories are terrible, but that doesn't mean everything I see in the media I just immediately dismisses. Oh, that's fake. That's fake news. That's right. That's not right. That's whatever. I can still dislike the journalists and the media coverage, but I don't have to immediately dismiss every story they publish as like, well, that's obviously wrong. And that's the problem here is just because the wrong guys are saying we hate LaNasa, the guys you hate. And yes, there's some people that are part of the outrage brigade that said some really, I showed Eric today, some really stupid things.
Oh God.
Really stupid. Like my brain shut off for a couple of seconds and it had to reboot. That dumb. We had the guy that compared, I'm not going to name names. We had the guy that compared grognards to the swastika. That was, I don't get that. And then the other guy who there was a couple. It was over the top. It was the outrage brigade. They were just ramping up. But that doesn't mean that you have to like LaNasa because they're wrong. Yes, they're wrong, but LaNasa's not wrong, not right either. He's using this to trick you. I mean, that's what grifters do. Grifters right. pitch you against. They put you against somebody else. They say, "Are you going to believe me or your lying eyes? Who are you going to believe?" And you're going to think, "Well, I really don't like this guy over here, so I guess I better believe this guy, even though he's right." What he's doing is, it doesn't seem right, but these other guys are worse. And you don't have to play that game, man. You could just say, "Look, you're both pieces of garbage," or I don't trust either of you. I mean, you don't have to say, one guy on the TSR page is like, I love this company so much, I'm buying 18 copies of Giantlands just to show the other guys.
I'm going to swim in them. I'm going to give them out to kids. Here's a costume for you.
You're buying a bad game to prove a point? I don't get it. It's kind of like people that buy something I see the people that buy something and they go home and break it on YouTube because I'm going to show you how much I hate these people. They won. You bought their product. They don't care what you do with it afterwards. Just shove it up your ass. They don't care what you do. They're laughing all the way to the bank. You're not proving anything. So yeah, when you buy 18 copies of Giantlands, you're not sticking it to the bad guys. You're just making LaNasa lean back on his throne and laugh and throw the money to strippers, whatever he does with it. I don't know. So yeah, it's this. You gotta divorce the outrage brigade stuff from reality. So that means you look at the facts. You don't look at the politics. You look at the facts, and you say, "What has this guy produced? What is he supposed to produce?" I mean, just go over like let's say the only thing I've seen him advertise so far is TSR Con. We're gonna have TSR Con.
Oh, it's Starfin Tears.
When is it, Eric? When is TSR Con?
TBT.
Oh, TBT. To be
determined. To be
total.
Trump, to be tumbled. To be troubled. To be TSR.
Well, they're gonna have it. It's gonna be in the horticultural hall. Right? So me and about 700 of my friends can come. Right? That's gonna be.
Don't you're asking questions, Mike.
And well, that's right. The horticultural can only hold about 150 people.
No,
so.
Stop. Mike, you're asking questions, and if you ask questions, I know what you are, right?
A question asker.
No, you're what? You get banned. You get banned because you're asking questions, and that is the. And by the way, I got receipts going back. I've got receipts going back to October when LaNasa first announced his TSR trademark, and I found out about the museum. And the museum itself is quick background. I know I covered this probably shortly last week, but the reason why we saw all these announcements like 2 weeks ago, all these TSR announcements started rolling out. We got this trademark of this, and this part's coming out, and this and that. Is because there's been no money coming in. Like I said, they didn't get zoning permission for this museum until yesterday. So if they've been running anything in the museum, not good. So it wasn't zoned, right? It wasn't, technically, it wasn't even operable. You shouldn't have had anybody living in the apartment upstairs because it wasn't zoned for it. In any case, now it is. So this pandemic shut everything down. The ability for LaNasa to bring in $6,000 at the table for Ernie running a game went out the fucking window. So they're in panic mode to make money. So since we're talking about that, I'm gonna bring up the first.
They're doing pre-sales of Giantlands.
Yeah,
and that's at $80 a pop, which by the way has not come out yet.
Right, so and the Kickstarter, it's going to be different than the Kickstarter version, and the Kickstarter version, according to Ernie, is not good enough.
It's 2 years late. 2 years late, not finished or not good enough yet. Yes. So that's the problem. Is that there's a lot of promises. There's all these. You can make all kinds of promises when you don't have to actually keep the promises. You can say, I mean, Kim Whitman was great at that, right? He promised all kinds of shit that never got happens. Well, this guy is not too far off because he's promised a lot of things. And the guy there, I think Fugly said that. How do we know the Giantlands isn't good? It could be great, but it's not out yet. It's not clear. It's not out.
Not only that, just a little qualification to that. You do realize that Giantlands, if you get the premiere edition of Giantlands, it comes with a costume, poncho, and a mask. Because this is how you played your RPG.
I remember back in 1978. We used to put on a mask,
80s, 90s. You know what?
Ponchos and
I got news for you.
Sombreros.
As far back as 2021, I don't know people that sat at the table and played in costume.
Unless you're playing in the Stewart's Victorious game.
That's different.
And Mike was wearing his top hat, and Liz was wearing her corset.
That's different. But what I'm saying is, nobody's putting on a fucking plastic poncho to sweat their ass off with a mask to play a game. That is not what RPG is about. That might be LARPing.
It could be. It's an RPG. It's just not an old school RPG, and that's the problem. Is Giantlands could be a great RPG. There's nothing about it to me that screams old school. It's based on a percentage system. I've seen the videos and stuff. It's percentage. There's nothing particularly old school percentage. That was basic role playing by Chaosium was percentage based. I don't see the old school connection there, except the fact that it was written by this guy Deinhardt. What's his old school credentials? He doesn't have any old school credentials.
No, Deinhardt was in the movie production.
And I guess Jim Ward did some work on it too. Jim has a hand in it. Deinhardt wants to bring an adventure park to the scene on this whole Giantlands thing. By the way, James, what kind of poncho and a mask? A cheap poncho and a mask. I think that's probably it's probably the type of quality that you used to have when you were 10 and you went out trick-or-treating as Superman, and the costume generally ripped as you put it on. That's probably the quality. Mine ripped because I was fat. Is that?
I was husky, dude. I was fucking. Husky.
Oh, I'm sorry, husky. That's what we used back in the 70s. Yes, was husky.
You weren't. I'm not fat. I'm big boned. No, I was fucking husky.
I was husky. Yeah. Well, anyway, so Giantlands. That's the problem. Is we don't know anything because it's not out, but also it's being marketed as kind of slyly as kind of an old school game, but it's there. I don't see anything to indicate it's old school. There's old school systems out there. There's a lot of old school systems out there.
Yeah.
We talked about some last week. And honestly, if you wanted to make a retro clone, you could make a retro clone. That's the whole point of the OGL is to make retro clones. You could make a retro clone. This is not a retro clone, and it's not an old school system. It's some system Deinhardt thought up, and they're slapping the Giant Land's name on it and saying we're going to put TSR in it. That makes it old school. That doesn't make it old school just because it has the old TSR logo on it. The same reason that putting the Star Frontiers logo on a sci-fi game is not going to make it Star Frontiers. It's going to be a sci-fi game. I mean, much like Top Secret. Look, Top Secret, they couldn't use Top Secret SI. They couldn't use original Top Secret rules. So Merle and Alan made up a whole new rule set, and they called it Top Secret New World Order. It has very little in common with the original Top Secret set, but they couldn't use the actual rules mechanics Top Secret. All they had was the name Top Secret. That's the same with the Star Frontiers. It's gonna be a generic sci-fi game, and it's gonna say Star Frontiers, and it can't have Rusk and Dramalites and all Yozirians in it. I don't think it can. I mean, it can't be set in the world of Star Frontiers. I mean, it's just it's all bait and switch, guys. It's all bait and switch. It's here's what we got. Here's what you think we're going to publish, and you get this picture in your head that it's going to be this, and it's going to come out, and it's going to be something completely different. And that's what I mean. I really feel sorry for these people on the TSR page. They're all excited about, man, Star Frontiers is coming out again, man.
Yeah. D&D is going to be owned by the company that created it again. They're going to get it back from Wizards of the Coast.
But hold on. Actually, my favorite was the guy that suggested, if you're having problems, why doesn't TSR just buy D&D from WotC? I mean, that seems like a perfectly logical explanation to me, right, Eric? I mean, why don't they just buy D&D from WotC? And I'm just thinking, oh my God, these people are so out of touch, and that's the reason they are accepting with this. Look, if you have $800 million, you could probably start the bidding there. $800 million, because that's what D&D made last year for WotC. It was $800 million. I don't think LaNasa has $800 million.
No, I don't think it. And here's, listen, here's the thing. Having a trademark, I know somebody, and I'm not going to mention names, but they are known by people in the OSR who messaged me and said, I just heard, and he's telling me this like he believes the rumor. I just heard a rumor that this new TSR is getting a license to put out licensed AD&D, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons material. Can you believe it? I went, no. If Goodman Games can't put out their reprints and label like Elemental Evil, an AD&D release, if they can't use it, they're certainly not going to be licensing out to a company like TSR that is giving the finger to Wizards of the Coast. It ain't happening. But here, since we're on this topic of trademarks, again, we're gonna go back to the receipts. October 15th. This was a direct message from LaNasa to me. And by the way, I'm going to tell everybody I never responded to any of his messages, which I guess just pissed him off even more. But hi, Eric. Good podcast earlier. Thanks for the attention given to DHS, London Hobby Shop. Would have been nicer if you gave some attention sooner, but better later than never. Had a bunch of people message and get on the wait list to get in line to use licensing trademarks. I will wait till finalized before we release. And if you need any, if you need any more info, just ask. Don't have to guess. I'm assuming that's where the period, one of the missing periods would have gone. I'm going to take a break reading. Now, here's the thing. He hasn't licensed these out. I know of one company that actually back at that time asked me, how legitimate do you think this is? And I was like, as legitimate as pissing away your money always is. That was just my answer. So, Ernie Gygax, Jeff Leeson, yes. Frank Metzner, no. Mike Carr, no. And James Ward, I don't think James Ward even knows what he's doing right now.
Oh, dear.
And many, many more are all a part of this.
One interruption, Eric. Frank Metzger's already said he was not ever part of this. So he did stay on just to throw that in there. So Frank's another one of those people that said, no, I've never talked to these people. So go ahead.
and many more are all a part of this great project. And I don't think you quite saw the aspect of the Dungeon Master rating thing is to give everybody a chance to game oh God, fucking punctuation, you jackass. You might not be able to game there with Ernie or Jim or Frank at the time of their legendary games, but sure can basically rent a place and bring your friends there. Hold on. I got to go to the next part of this. I got to bring up the next piece because it isn't to finish this. And game in somewhere there's legendary and dirt cheap. Have a good night. So of course I don't answer him because I don't.
You don't answer. You don't answer rambling emails like that.
No,
Eric,
rambling
I'm
PMs.
Oh.
No, I don't answer rambling PMs. So now the 16th he comes back with bye Tenkar. I've had enough of your childish behavior. Next time you want followers, ask me, and I'll give you a good plan on how to get 10 million more followers, like I did
10 million
with Mr. Beast. And that's about you followers age group. And now the link, by the way, in here is dead.
Hold on. I'm just thinking about what we would do with 10 million followers, Eric. Maybe you should have listened to him.
I would take over the world.
So that sounds like we could monetize the shit out of that.
Possibly.
I like this. I like this idea. Let's get 10 million followers.
FYI, that's my tank and me at the end of the video. Ass hat, do your research. So this is all reasons why hey, damn it! How did I not snag the one for this that includes his legal threat against me? Damn it!
I saw that you showed it to me today, so you have it there because I read.
I have it. I just gotta fucking find it.
But folks, this is what big time YouTube podcasting looks like here. This is why we're not big time.
Yeah, I thought I was like, I'm doing everything right. I'm setting all this shit up proper, like, and we're gonna have, and it's like, oh no, I didn't.
I take it back. We're not ready for 10 million followers, Eric. So we're not even ready for 10,000. I don't think so. Sorry.
Yeah. You know what? Maybe we'll have to take a break at 1,000. And just say. Yeah.
By the way, thanks everybody because we are up to almost 800 subscriptions. We really appreciate it. We've done almost 300 subscriptions just since North Texas. So thanks so very much to everybody.
Yeah, you know what, Mike? I should probably just instead of going through all my screenshots, I should probably go back into Facebook.
Always professional, folks. That's us. The Eric and Mike, the first name of professionalism on YouTube.
All right, Mike, take the baton for a minute as I go through this and find it. I think it's awesome, but I got to find it first, right?
So how's everybody doing, man? How's it going?
Oh, come on, Mike! Don't do that to me.
Yes. So I had to turn the air conditioner on. It's actually got hot in here. So how's it going? How's the weather up there?
I am sweating bricks, motherfucker.
I did turn the AC on here too. I was all brave and tough earlier in the show, and then it started getting hot in here, so that's why I got up. By the way, I found out. Look at what I can do. I can stop the cam, and I can get up in my underwear and go do stuff. So, you'll probably see that more often now because I would just sit here before because I usually just wear my underwear during the show. TMI, yeah, I know. So,
but we like your TMI, Mike.
I know.
Your TMI is wonderful.
Hey, Skeeter, I got something for you right here. Boom! How about that? There we go. Didn't see it. Oh, by the way, welcome to Luke. Thank you, Luke. And I know you've had a rough week, and you're awesome, dude. You're our bro. I don't know what else. You have to think this outpouring of love in the community is amazing for Luke. So hey, thanks a lot for doing what you do.
All right, I found it.
Oh, there we go.
I found it, and it's a bad screen. I got to find the original because this is a bad version of the original. But in any case, oh no, I didn't find it. I found the bottom of it. Oh my fucking god, Mike. All right, folks.
Well, I don't have access to your computer. It's not like I deleted it off your computer or anything.
Yeah, you did. I know you did, Michael.
You're going to blame me just like they're blaming Watsy. You're going to blame me. That's it. I get blamed just like Watsy gets blamed. Great. Yeah, well, what can I say? Watsy are the masterminds. Watsy snuck into your computer today, Eric, and they probably deleted that. Wait, actually,
Okay.
why would they do that? That doesn't make any sense. Okay, well, doesn't have
All
to make
right.
sense.
So it is the last one. It should be this one.
So somebody was talking about Star Frontiers. From what I understand, the Star Frontier, all the amateurs that had the Star Frontiers license, they've had that pulled. The guy that used to do Star Frontiersman, I believe on his webpage it says he's no longer allowed to publish Star Frontiers material. That's because Wizard of the Coast is reissuing the reprints on drive-through, and they did not want confusion in the marketplace. That's a huge thing. Confusion in the marketplace is real big, and they did not want that. So I understand that nearly all the amateur Star Frontier stuff has been pulled, and I've also heard a little rumor that I can just throw out here because you don't have to know who I heard the rumor from, but that WotC may be publishing their own version of Star Frontiers to compete with Paizo and their Star Finder.
Now,
so I don't know. That could be a rumor.
Well,
it's just a rumor.
Well, here's the thing. That now there's a little circumstantial evidence that leads this to possibly be true. Back in 2017, Evil Hat filed for the abandoned trademark of Star Frontiers.
Yes.
And they got to the last step, which is the step that, by the way, this newest version of TSR is at, where they have to send back a statement of use. And the statement of use says, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to publish a book in the next 6 months, next 12 months, and it's going to be yada, yada, yada. And you know what? They never followed up on that. And they never updated one. They never followed up on it. But then, like a few months later, they had to let go 3 of their managers and downsize the company and cancel like half their projects that were in motion. So I heard from multiple sources the reason was because Wizards of the Coast shut them down with lawyers, not actually going to trial, just shut them down with legal threats and having them have to respond.
If Wizards is really serious about coming up with their own Star Frontiers, they will shut this down faster than your handle span. Because they do not want any confusion in the marketplace. They don't want people saying
TSR advertised their quote upcoming Star Frontiers project using the Star Frontiers TSR classic era cover. But I digress. We're going to go back.
If the guy about to say, if you go, I can't remember the gentleman's name that did Star Frontiersman. If you go to his website, he has a little bit of explanation of this, and he says on the website that he was told by WotC that he can no longer publish his stuff, and they were very, very cooperative before that they let him come out with Star Frontiersman. They were very cooperative, and then they suddenly got to where, okay, I'm sorry, you can't do it anymore. So that tells me that something's up with Star Frontiers and WotC. But this is all speculation. We're guessing here.
So here's my favorite from LaNasa. I think it's from the 16th. Good job looking into the truth of the matter, but beware. Stop the speculation on Wizards of the Coast. It's not your place. Fucking telling me what my place is. Unless you're trying to will some negativity, I suggest you stick to the facts. So now I didn't answer. Another thing, I guess he meant you, armchair lawyer. But another thing there, armchair lawyer, you might want to be very careful. You might get pulled into this very easily. You know what character deformation? I don't think he spelled it right, but okay, slander and even in some cases fraud is in some cases. Because apparently, in some cases, this might be fraud. Like, I don't know. Is that projection? Because I read this to Rach. She's like, you think he's projecting his own sins on others? Like, maybe. I suggest you stop picking sides, and steering things could get costly for you, too. And not answering shows a lack of giving two shits. Maybe you should start asking factual questions and stop making shit up. So, in my experience, as limited as it is,
stop making shit up, Eric. Stop.
My experience is that when you start making threats like that, you've got shit to hide. Okay,
there's no reason to get that defensive. There's no reason to get that defensive, and that's a hallmark of these guys. Whitman did the same thing. Gareth does the same thing. These people who have something to hide get very defensive. People who are not defensive and that talk to you clearly and that show examples and that explain to you stuff, those are people that usually don't have stuff to hide. People that get all blustery and I'm going to sue you and they start name calling, that tells you something. That is a huge danger. That's a red flag. That's a red flag right there. People do that shit.
Yeah. No, it is amazing. So Since we're here, I'm going to follow up on it because there's only 2 more screenshots to share. And they're from the blog, and they're from the 17th, immediately hereafter. Somebody, the truth seeker, says, lastly, simply call a charge a donation to the museum, and a player can easily write it off. Because they wanted to know, is this museum
right
a nonprofit? So my response was, I don't believe the museum is a not-for-profit, as you know, such status is not indicated anywhere on the website, nor is the admission fee referred to as a donation. But what is Justin's response? Very good idea, and anyone can pay money to game wherever, and they do. So, in other words, great idea. When you fill out your tax return, claim it as a donation. But we're not telling you that.
No, I'm thinking, why don't we just call this the Eric and Mike Museum Show, and it's a write-off then, right? We didn't tell you to do that. We're just saying if you want to do it, that'd be great.
Yeah,
you can send us $100, and you could probably write it off because we have museum in our name.
Send it to a P.O. box in cash only. Because so now this is great because now Justin follows that short comment up with another comment expanding on it, where he decides that he has to now insult me in it, and goes on. Conventions pay nothing. There's a whole process there to allow. You're going to follow up on this.
I'm going to follow up on this after you get there. Go ahead, Eric.
The whole purpose here is to allow DMs to make money. I guess DMs to make money for their skills. Conventions pay nothing, and at most give out free rooms and snacks.
Okay.
We are different. Wait, no, let me finish.
I know. I'm
on
fire.
I'm going to be roast row. Let me finish.
Okay.
We are different. And secondly, we are the original TSR Dungeon Hobby Shop location. The only one in the whole world to game in Gary's very office is a bucket list item to some. But if you can't afford it, like old Tenkar, you might want to befriend an old TSR employee so you can DM for free. And then right away, he comes back with, I just had the Tenkar edit my response. What a joke he is. I said if you can't afford gaming at the DHS like Tenkar obviously can't, you might want to make a TSR employee a friend and get into the game for free. And this dumb fuck, in my opinion, well, no, he's a dumb fuck. I think that it's speaking of many. He can't even. Obviously, he was putting up two comments, and he wanted to put up one and then delete it and put up the other one so he could say I did. But what I did, unbeknownst to him, is I put both of them through. Oh, look, there's a deleted comment, but it wasn't fully deleted, so I re-put it. So I kind of had suspicions that LaNasa was going to play games. So then I asked him another question. So the Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum a not-for-profit? Folks want to know. So let's get to the very last LaNasa.
Let's cross our fingers. This works. Come on.
Yeah, come on. Mama wants a new pair of shoes.
I think I got a book to read over here while we're doing this.
We got it.
There we go.
I go, as a side note, if you truly posted such, I would have approved it. It shows the kind of businessman you are. But hey, I did approve it when you actually said it. Go figure. You do a fine job in digging your own hole, Justin. It's okay, Tenkar. Keep throwing stones. It really shows how jealous you really are. It's okay. Keep it up. Very becoming of you. Do you know how many people can't stand to listen to you anymore? Your ship is sinking, and I understand now. It's you screaming for help. So, yeah, folks, obviously the YouTube channel has reached new heights in the past couple of months, but this is how LaNasa never answered the question, by the way. You do realize direct questions. He says, ask me questions. He's been saying this recently on social media. And when he does, people ask him questions, he doesn't answer it. But people are like, why don't you bring Justin LaNasa onto the live stream and ask him questions? Because this is how he answers questions with non-answers that are there to be distractions to the issues. So no, I don't need to bring that type of fuckery, something like that. Fuckery. Yeah. I'm a New Yorker. We know how to curse, but we don't curse in the proper way half the time. I'm losing an earphone. Excuse me.
Well, yeah. Well, you can't. You gotta curse in Yiddish anyway. That's the best cursing.
Oh God. No, yeah, Yiddish cursing.
Yiddish cursing. Oy vey, and then you start going on schlubs and schmeals and schmazzles and.
Bump the Boga. which is apparently Yugoslavian Gochaish, which would be like another German dialect. Apparently, in that German dialect, it means "fuck God." Because my grandfather used to say it. My father had heard it, so we had a neighbor that was Yugoslavian, and he asked what it meant, and their face turned white, and like, you can't say "fuck God," and it's like, oh, well, now I know what my father was saying all the time. This is awesome.
That reminds me of this has nothing to do with anything, but in summer of '84, I dated an Australian girl who I was batting way above my average, by the way, as I usually am. I don't know why. Yes. Some girls just like this big old chubby face of mine. Anyway,
he's a cherub.
She used to say "get stuffed" all the time. I didn't really know what "get stuffed" meant. I just thought it meant get stuffed, get stuffed or whatever. And so I'm talking to some British friends of mine the next year, and I happened to throw out "get stuffed," and they all went pale, and they just went. And it turns out that that's their version of get fucked, which I did not know. And so I'm like, oh, I really can't say that in proper conversation, can I? And I said, well, I went out with this girl who's Australian, and they like nodded like, we understand now. Those Australians are barbarians. They were just like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay, you learned it from Australia. Well, no wonder. So yes, I had a funny story. That was my funny story. Australian girl that said "get stuffed" all the time. But anyway, I was going to say. So I want to focus on one thing LaNasa talked about, and that's the fees for special guests for his gaming. And this is something I think we talked about last year when this came out, about how expensive these fees were, up to $1,000, I guess, for the legendary guests at his hobby shop museum, where the guests get. Well, it turns out it's not 20%, Eric. You were wrong. It's 25%.
Oh yeah, I know. I was.
You accidentally.
It's 25% only at the $1,000 mark, Michael.
Right.
You got to get your numbers right.
So if you pay LaNasa $1,000 to game with, let's say, Ernie gets $250, and LaNasa gets $750. Even though he's not the talent. The talent's Ernie. That's what bringing people to the table. And so one of his statements in there was that, what do most people that run conventions, they don't pay their guests anything. And Luke can tell you this. You pay out the wazoo. Because here's what you're going to do. For most of your special guests, apologies to Skeeter, and I'll explain something about the way North Texas is run. North Texas is a smaller convention run on a budget. We oftentimes, somebody who is already going to be at our convention, we ask them if they would like special guest status. We will call them a special guest, but we don't pay for their sometimes we don't pay for the room board. We don't pay for them coming there. For people like, let's say, Errol Otis or Alan Hammock or somebody like that, we will pay their plane ticket. We buy them a plane ticket to come there. We will pay for their hotel room or comp their hotel room for 3 days, which doesn't mean you don't pay anything. It means that you're paying for their hotel for 3 days. We also give them a small amount of money for, essential, like maybe $100 for food and stuff like that. And also, most of these guys don't have to reach for their wallet the whole convention. They're going to get paid for the whole time. We also let them pimp their products, Kickstarters, anything like that. They're free to sell stuff at the table. However, in the certain case, people like Skeeter, who was a special guest at our con this year, but I don't believe we compensated him. Do we compensate you, Skeeter? I don't think so. But that is because we're running a very tight budget. No. We're a small convention. We're running a very tight budget. Like I said, some people that are already showing up will say, would you like to be a special guest? And they say yes. And then they're a special guest at our con, which is cool. They get to put down they were a special guest at North Texas and whatever. And then there you go. And so Skeeter knows he knows what it is. Pay for people that put butts in seats. You do. First of all, Skeeter, you do put butts in seats. That's not true that you don't. It's just that you're kind enough because you were already coming to our convention and we were, say, hey, let's make you a special guest too. So but people like Errol Otis, he doesn't happen to be in the Dallas-Fort Worth area during, June 6th. So we have to pay him a plane ticket to show up. And there's people like that. So we are paying these people. So to say that we don't have to pay these people to show, what do you pay people to show up at your con? We pay a lot. For the average guest, it may be up to $1,000 for a special guest to show up at the con. And I'll tell you something else we do. For instance, Jeff Easley painted a picture this year that Alberta Chulik won in the auction. I believe the final total in the auction was $5,500. We split that with Easley. We don't keep the entire $5,500, so we sent Easley a check for $2,250, which I would I would have a lot more respect for LaNasa if he split these proceeds.
No.
I'm going to challenge him right now. He needs. Why don't you split your DM fees with these DMs? If you care about these people so much, you care about old school gaming, I am going to challenge you right now to split the DM fees with these guys because they're the talent. They're doing all the work. All you're doing is providing the room. You're not doing anything else. We do it in North Texas. We split the artist fees. Why don't you do your part?
Well, come on. That would ruin the business model. If you're
look how funny Ty thinks he is. Mike, I'll be needing you to send the Lear to let me get in to get me next year. Like we were going to consider Ty to ever be a special guest at our con.
Well,
that's funny, Ty. That's hilarious.
Yeah, one day. John Miller wants to know if there's any updates in the new TSR has Blackmore TM. What they're doing there again, same spot. They have to return their statement of use. So they don't listen. The only way they don't get it is if they just drop the ball, or somebody makes them drop the ball. But they're likely going to get it. Now, does that give them the rights to use the artwork? No. And using copyrighted artwork that's owned by Wizards of the Coast and saying it's okay because it's only filler art means that you don't understand how the law works. It makes my brain hurt. New Star Frontiers fan sites on Facebook. Will they be getting legal threats from the new TSR? Only if they tell TSR they can't spam the group. Because that's what it came down to. It's like, oh, no, new rule. TSR, you're limited to like one post a day. Well, fuck. Take TSR out and stop using our logos. Which, by the way, those aren't the logos that are owned by new TSR. They had them all redrawn. Okay, they had them all redrawn as early as June of 2020. All right, so these are redrawn logos. There are slight differences. If you go, actually, the best way to see the differences is to go on to the government's trademark site and get the logos from there. Do a quick screenshot and compare them side by side, and you will see the differences. They are minor, and if you don't have one to compare it to, you wouldn't know. But to threaten groups for using artwork that you don't own the rights to is bizarrely arrogant.
I think that's a little sleazy. Yeah, I definitely think that's sleazy.
Chris, banning trademark just seemed like a cheap way usually to try and grab some suckers or uninformed customers. My understanding, and I think I've stated, no, I don't know if we knew about this ahead of time for last episode. My understanding, I have a decent source on this, can't name my source, is that the business plan is to snag as many abandoned TSR trademarks that have, I guess, value in people's minds and either license them or put them out as shovelware product. I also heard that maybe they've killed this idea, but the initial idea was that they were going to be aiming a lot of stuff at 5e players because that's where the market is. But now that you just pissed on most of the 5e audience, I don't know if that's going to happen.
That's another thing Eric and I probably need to talk about too. Is that so? Because I had a friend of mine that I was explaining this situation to. I explained to my wife too, which is hilarious. But I explained to a friend of mine who's kind of tangentially in gaming, not really into it, and he wanted to know, well, what is this guy getting at? You know, what's his target? I said, the problem is that's the problem is that he is targeting an extremely small niche audience. And it generally is people who are nostalgic, and they have heard that TSR is back. They don't know the trademark or the copyright or any of the situations there. They hear that TSR is back, and they think, oh, well, D&D is going to come back. They're not being disabused of this notion by LaNasa or any of his minions. That they're basically saying, you know, hey, this sounds great. So he's catered to, he's insulted all kinds of people, mostly newer people into the game, anybody under the age of. So I think his niche at this point, I guess we could probably say is old, white, over 55 gamers who don't really know what's going on and are really nostalgic and probably not plugged in. I mean, it's such a tiny niche. And so Eric and I were talking about this, and I explained to Eric, though, that this is a viable niche. You can make money doing this. And there's been a lot of comic creators in the last 5 years or so who have left Marvel or DC Comics, and they have marketed themselves as, well, the comics are getting too woke and they're too left-wing and too progressive. I'm going to do conservative comics the way they always need to be. And these people have made millions of dollars doing this, just marketing this very little niche, because these people will spend money just to stick it to the wokies. They're like, hey, if I'm helping this guy who's old school, which we've revealed that LaNasa is not old school, but this guy who's pretending to be old school, I'm going to really stick it to these old whippersnappers, these 30-year-olds who are coming in and playing 5th edition. I hate 5th edition. I want to play old versions of games, and I'm going to stick it to them by giving you guys $100 for Giant Lands or whatever. And even though it's this really narrow niche, I'm telling you, it's viable. I'm telling you, this guy could go for a long time just appealing to this tiny little niche of gamer.
By the way, Kim George has a bit of a breakdown here. Mike, it costs $1,700 for the first game with top membership to play with Ernie, which he gets $250.
It's ridiculous, yeah.
It takes 4 times of playing this to pay off the membership.
So you got to have 4 games. And poor Ernie's not. Yeah, that's why this is ludicrous. Yeah, and that's why when he compares himself to conventions, that's a terrible comparison, because we pay. Conventions pay money to get these guys to come. It's not like we're not paying these guys. And believe me, if they didn't want to come, they just wouldn't come. If they didn't want their plane ticket, their room and board for 4 days, and to hang out and get extra stuff, they wouldn't come. They'd say, and I'll tell you, some of these guys won't. Like Weiss and Hickman, the great Weiss and Hickman are awesome, and they came to our con once, but they what do you call it? They did not take their appearance fee. They have appearance fees. They charge, I want to say it's $3,000 just to show up at your con. Because they're Weiss and Hickman, they can do that. Now, in our case, in return for us not advertising they would be at the con, they basically said we're not going to get an appearance fee for you guys. We know you guys are a smaller convention, which is really nice of these guys. They're just extremely nice of them. But yeah, these you make money from going to conventions. Don't pretend like people are coming to conventions for free, like we're using them for slave labor. Where we got Alan Hammock in handcuffs and we're throwing him on the plane like Tom Cruise in a Mission Impossible movie. He's getting thrown on a plane in handcuffs, and he's gotta undo the handcuffs and jump out of the plane at 20,000 feet or something. No, these guys want to come, and you pay them to come.
Right. Alan's running games and sitting in the bar. Sure. I'm not saying either one is a bad thing. I think they're both great things.
It's a vacation for these guys. It's a mini con for most of them. And the thing is, North Texas, we only ask they run 2 games. They can run more. Some cons they do run more, but in our case, we only ask them to run 2. They're allowed to run more if they want. But they spend the whole time kibitzing with us and hanging out and just having a great time. So to insinuate that he's doing so much more for the community by handing Ernie or Jeff or Jim $250 is ludicrous. That's absolutely ludicrous. That's 2 nights of a hotel room in North Texas. So, and we usually have people for 4 nights, plus we play their plane tickets, plus we give them $100, plus we give them other non-essential stuff. So that's a fake argument right there. That I'm doing so much for these old guys. Nobody's doing anything for them, and I guarantee you the same thing with Luke at Gary Con, the same thing with Alex at Gamehole Con, the same thing with Angela at Total Con. You are paying to have these guys. You're giving them what they're worth to come to the convention, unless it's Skeeter, and then you make Skeeter show up for free and tell them tough luck.
There you go. You are a special guest.
You're a special guest, Skeeter. We're not giving you anything because you're just a special guest. I love you, Skeeter. You know that. Skeeter knows I love him.
All right. So a little more background information on Monsieur LaNasa. He has claimed in certain places to certain people that he is a former federal law enforcement officer that served his time in law enforcement down in South America, interdicting drugs. Mm-hmm. And the reality is, I don't know why he says he's a federal law enforcement officer. He did honorable work, but he doesn't want to say it. He worked in the Coast Guard. Now, maybe the Coast Guard doesn't have the same, same sound of buffing that badge and saying, I worked with the...
They're legit.
Yeah. And he did 4 years in the Coast Guard. That's great. He should be proud of it. Why he tells people he was a federal law enforcement officer? Because that actually makes you look bad. Because I'll be honest with you, if you're in law enforcement and you leave law enforcement to work a tattoo parlor or run a tattoo parlor, generally speaking, you didn't leave willingly. Okay, people look at that and they go, "You had a job with a pension, and you left it to have women wrestling grits for a promotion. Why would you? How did it get so?" That would raise more questions to other law enforcement officers, in my opinion, when it comes to that. And now since I'm on the topic of law enforcement, I did 20 years in law enforcement in the NYPD. My first 6 as a police officer, my last 14 as a cop, nearly my last dozen in internal affairs. And as I've stated to others elsewhere, but I'm going to make it publicly known, the best advice I got when I was assigned to internal affairs by lieutenant flat out said, if you want your time here to not be painful, because it's a horrible position, and it's hard to get out of once you kind of do it well, don't look for guilt and don't look for innocence. Don't look for any of that. He goes, look for the truth. Because only by looking for the truth will you leave your predispositions behind. You're not looking for a predestined answer of, I want a dirty cop or I want to exonerate this guy. I look for the truth. And that's why I think people on either side of the political aisle get pissed at me, because I don't play favorites in these circumstances. If you are grifting in my community, and I believe that Justin LaNasa, my humble opinion, is attempting to grift on my community, you get my attention. When you threaten me with legal action, you get my focus. So it's a twofer. So, Justin, you did very well.
But by the way, somebody made a good point. I think it was Chris. The Coast Guard is much harder. My son is in the Navy. He was thinking about getting the Coast Guard for a while. It's actually hard to get the Coast Guard than it is to get in the Navy. You don't just enlist, because in the Navy you just enlist and you're in. And by the way, he's still in the Navy. He's been in there for 10 years now. But yeah, it's not a goofball job at all. I have a cousin. Actually, what's my cousin's sons? That would be my second cousin, or my cousin wants to remove. I don't know. He is in the Navy and he works the Gulf Coast. And man, they're getting some hairy shit down there, because they're doing drug interdiction. They're doing human trafficking shit. I mean, it's a legit profession. So yeah, there's no reason why you would dump on a Coast Guard career at all. That's some heavy ass shit.
So I figured, I'd throw that out there. And I already listen. Earlier today, I had somebody in Tenkar's Tavern community. Yes, this is burning up communities left and right, and getting very aggressive and political with others, to the point that it was beyond poor taste. And I gave them the boot, and the response was, "Hey, I was getting dogpiled, and whatever happened to the thin blue line?" And my response, having been a New York City police officer for 20 years, spending the majority of that disliked by the public and, in most part, by many of my other officers because of the role I had to play. And now there were 650 of us, uniformed members in internal affairs, larger than most of the police departments in the country, monitoring activity of our own. I was like, I'm holding you to a higher standard, because you should have thick skin. If somebody comes up to my face in a detail and tells me with their hot fucking 75-year-old old lady breath, "You fucking piece of shit," and then you followed up by another old lady of the same age doing the same exact thing, my response is thank you, because I have a thicker skin. Okay, you're supposed to be. I have a thick skin. Justin LaNasa can make as many insults about me as he wants to. He can come, or his minions can come onto this channel. We don't have a troll this week. I'm kind of almost disappointed, but I'm sure they'll be trolling the comments.
We didn't have a comment until late in the show last week, so maybe we still got one coming.
That's true. Maybe they sleep late. But
because he waited till I showed the product, and he said, "Stop showing me 5th edition product." And
it was all
OSR product. It was like 50 OSR products. He's like, "Stop showing me 5th edition."
Doesn't know, because he doesn't know what OSR.
No, he didn't know what OSR was.
Doesn't play the game.
He was a pure troll. Yeah, he was.
Yeah. But folks, if you want to help the channel out, besides watching the live streams, if you're on here for like 5 minutes after we wrap up, just add some comments to the final, because comments on the live stream are great because they drive the conversation. They're great for us, but comments after the recording drive the algorithm. So by liking the episode, by subscribing, by commenting, I'm pissing off the trolls by thanking them for their comments, telling me I put them to sleep, because you know what? They're helping the algorithm. They're helping YouTube say, hey, people like this. They're talking. So yes, this is one of those times where even bad publicity is really good publicity. So if the trolls want to comment, they're more than welcome to. It makes me happy.
Yeah, and it's funny. What's funny is that the way that YouTube, I can't get my words. I don't know what's wrong. I didn't have that much whiskey. The way that their integrations or whatever work is, any involvement helps. I mean, even negatives help, which is hilarious. I mean, if you get downvoted, that's still considered engagement. That's also engagement. Mm-hmm. If you even a downvote's engagement, which I think is hilarious. But yeah, definitely put us on your subscription list. Well, we don't pimp for subscriptions as much as other people do. I noticed that I was listening to a lot of YouTube stuff this week because I was listening to different people's take on the TSR, and they must mention, please subscribe to our show 15 times during their YouTube things. I mean, I swear one show, who I will not name, Clownfish, they spent the first 15 minutes of the show telling you, please subscribe to our channel, please give us money, and please do this, and we need money, and please subscribe. I mean, so we don't do that, but yes, if you can subscribe, that's great. Comments are great too, but we love interactions, and yeah, I mean, it lets us know that we're doing something that people care about, and and the people are actually listening to us, and if you know Eric and I, we don't care about the monetizing bullshit. I mean, right. whatever. We're not making any money off this. We don't care. So quite
frankly, if we do get to the point we can monetize, which is at 1,000 subscribers, the money that we raise from doing this is either going to go back to the community or back to a community charity. We'll figure something out. It's not money that either one of us need to pay bills. Now, some people do need it to pay bills. I understand that. Yeah. I don't fault them. I don't need it. It's the reason why the money from the Drive-Thru RPG, the affiliate monies, why I do these giveaways, and why we do OSR Christmas and all this stuff.
You have to get so many subscriptions to really be making what they call the big bucks. I mean, look, we know we're a niche. We're not going to get 200,000 subscribers. I think it's 250 where you get you start getting the big bucks about 250, and we're not going to ever make it there. So we don't care. We're no. So it's no big deal. But we appreciate it because at least lets us know that somebody's there listening to our stuff, watching our stuff, and tell people about it. And we try to give you the straight dope on this stuff too. We don't throw a lot of politics in there. We try to keep, and see, that's where Eric's career in IA works great, and then the fact that it's all about the fact. It's just the facts, man. It's Joe Friday. Yeah. He's just going to tell you here's the facts. Here's what it is. We're not going to make up shit. And when we do have speculation. We're going to tell you right now. Look, we're just speculating. We don't know.
Right. If I editorialize, which I certainly will, it's usually because someone like Justin LaNasa has added a little bit of a personal animosity to the situation, which takes a lot of skill. Okay. I mean, the people that have added personal animosity to my coverage are people like Ken Whitman, Gareth Skarka for threatening to punch me in the throat. You got to reach a certain level.
He's trying to help fix that voice. It sounds like nails on chalkboard. That's why.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think that should be I should get a banner for next North Texas.
You get a hat or shirt next convention we go to. Nails on chalkboard or something. Yeah.
Like nails on a chalkboard.
Yeah, sure. I mean, roll with it, All right, so what do we have? Man. So what do we have left to talk about in this fiasco? Because we got quite a bit more time. What did we miss anything? So we're looking at responses that were made after last week. We talked about Ernie's post. We're not going to go into that. Jim Ward made one.
Gen Con said, "Go pound."
Oh, Gen Con, yeah, Gen Con had a response. Oh, we might as well put that too. So we kind of had an outpouring of support among the different OSR type cons, and I mean the big three: Game Hole Con, Gary Con, and of course North Texas, which we're the little brother of the three. All said that TSR Games is not welcome to the con. LaNasa's not welcome, so don't bother to even apply for a table. we're not going to take you in because it's too divisive and it's just too much. And so we said that. Then Gen Con came out and basically surprised everyone because you wouldn't think they'd notice this. I mean, Gen Con's a big, they're big company, but they came out and said,
and
we don't want them either. We don't want these guys.
When Gen Con said it, do you know what the lemming said? Oh, well, Wizards of the Coast owns Gen Con, so obviously they made them do it.
They don't.
No, Wizards of the Coast doesn't even go to Gen Con usually.
Peter Atkinson once owned WotC, which he sold, and he bought Gen Con, but WotC was bought by Hasbro. I mean, Peter Atkinson could call up tomorrow. They go, yeah, okay, whatever, Peter, because he does not have. I mean, he's not part of the company anymore. So
right.
No, and like you said, Eric, WotC doesn't even attend Gen Con anymore. So that's a moot
and again, that's part of what it frustrates me in this whole conversation, because there's this core crew of diehard TSR supporters that believe the narrative that's been wholly endorsed by LaNasa, even if he might never have come out and put it in as many words, is that this newest TSR is actually the original TSR risen from the grave, and that the newest TSR will be pretty much grabbing up all the old copyright, because he's never said it ain't happening, but he's certainly not told people, what you're saying is true. He's not telling them that they've got false ideas either. So people are thinking, oh, look, Star Frontiers, well, great. And look, they had top secret. They no longer do have the new top secret, but they were going to be selling it on their website. Yeah,
that's another thing is Jason Elliott's response to this. You might want to talk about that, Eric.
Well, Jason Elliott, when this whole fiasco started becoming Fiasco 3.0, because there was an initial fiasco, and then it got worse and worse. Jason was like, you know what? We don't want to license the TSR brand from you, like the agreement was going to be. Hey, we stole your trademark. And that's not even alleged, all right? It was trademark camping. Look, we're playing MMO. Look, the trademark dropped. Let's grab it before the person that was really camping it takes it back. And the offer was to license it back for $10 a year, but that was also to give them product to sell in their storefront online.
Which they could say, hey, here's some TSR product right here that we had no part of anything with, but it's TSR product. So, yeah, look, we got some product here.
Kim, we actually did mention it, but yes, the museum and apartment got accepted in Lake Geneva. I wasted 90 minutes of my time watching the whole thing, and it was painful to watch. And here's another thing. I happen to know, because somebody put me on a blind carbon copy, that a lot of the screenshots and other stuff that was put out by TSR and the Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum online and social media were sent to not just the article of the author of the article that was in like the Lake Geneva Gazette News, whatever, which is highlighting the upcoming hearing, but also to members of the city council and such, and never came up. Am I surprised? No. Because you know what? They'll probably just said, oh, I don't need to read this because I don't need to read anything from a concerned citizen, because really we serve whatever, the agenda is. These votes aren't ever a surprise when they come up. It wasn't like there was going to be like we got last minute news on this, we're going to have to vote no. It was,
look, I've been to a few city council meetings because we had stoplight on our 2 streets over that needed a street that needed a stoplight really bad. My wife first moved to our neighborhood, and so we went to probably 6 months of city council meetings. Dear God in heaven,
okay,
it's boring. And we ended up I think I just watched them online at a certain point. There's no point in going. It's just boring. It's really dull. It's not. You see the exciting ones on TV where somebody's up there yelling and stuff, but that's 90% of city council meetings are not like that. So anyway, I watched part of it too, and it was just a bunch of people who don't know anything, and they were just, okay, we're going to have a museum for TSR. They probably thought, yeah, whatever. I mean, they weren't informed. They were extremely uninformed about this, and I really can't blame them because you have so many things that come up in these meetings. You can't research them all, and you're not going to talk to these people. And I doubt they read it in the emails, or they may have and just thought, well, these are just disgruntled people. I don't know.
Yeah, this is all made up. By the way, Luke, FYI, no one from Wizards asked me about new TSR. Now, I know for a fact that Mike Merles was informed by 2 individuals about the going-ons, and I think maybe somebody else at TSR might have gotten, Woods of the Coast may have gotten a heads up. So, but as we always say in the world of law enforcement, the wheels of justice are very slow in turning, and if they are going to be taking any kind of legal action, God only knows how long that could take. The only problem
they
is,
might not even look at them as any kind of a threat or any. I mean, they're really tiny. Dandelion Games said, "Post just Elmore's do art for them." We have heard no confirmation that Elmore that he's going to do anything for him. So he may have done a work for hire art, but I think at one point he was being announced that, he's the art director. Well, he has
Ernie insinuated such during the interview. And you might even have Larry Elmore on board as our art director. Which,
well, I'd like to see Larry confirm this. There's been no confirmation, and I doubt there will be. So, I think that's another case of him dropping a whole bunch of names, an alphabet soup of names, and then having them have to come forward later. Frank came out this week also and said he's not part of TSR. He's never been part of TSR, and he was never asked to be part of TSR. So that was just a name drop by LaNasa also, apparently.
And that's part of LaNasa's marketing plan, right? His marketing pitch. He pitches for projects that have not even started yet with names that are attached to them that don't even know. Like Jim Ward was attached to the Star Frontiers project, and Jim was saying, I don't know if I am. Maybe. Could be. I don't know.
One of the things, Chris says, not the first time Larry Morris had his name stolen for a project. If you know anything about Larry, we've actually had him as a guest twice our show. His wife handles all his financial dealings. He handles all his travel stuff. She handles all his convention appearances. I don't know how I should put this. I mean, it's not like he's just got other things on his mind. He does not think about these things. And he's getting a little older. His attention wanders quite a bit. He's still an incredible artist. But he's just not, this is not stuff he handles. His wife handles all this. So if you go to Larry and you ask him, hey, Larry, would you be our guest at our convention? He's going to talk to you in that Tennessee, Kentucky accent and whatever, but he doesn't have the final say in that. His wife does all that for him. So if he, until I see something from his wife or an official thing from Larry's, what Elmore Studios, you can't even really count what Larry says. Larry might not know. He's not doing any work, because his wife does all that. She's a treasure. She handles all that stuff for him. I know that both times we've had him at our convention, we had to go through Mrs. Elmore, or for our to set him up at our convention. And he's a great guy. I mean, if you get in the convention, the guy will talk your ear off. He's awesome, but he does not handle those details. And so, unless Elmore Studios comes out saying, yes, Larry has taken this job, I would absolutely put that with a grain of salt, that he has anything to do with the new TSR. Yeah. He may have done work for hire, just kind of like Jeff D did. Maybe he did a painting, because you can hire any of these guys to do artwork for you.
Oh, Mike, since you're talking about work for hire, we forgot to mention one thing that has been publicly, we knew about it early, but we weren't allowed to talk about it. But now that it's been publicly shared, now we can talk about it. An artist who shall remain nameless in the community inquired before all this stuff started turning into a burning dumpster fire with the newest TSR about doing freelance work. And their response was, here is a blank contract with a place for your social security number and your signature. Please sign it and fill it out.
So Lloyd threw this out on social media. I know who the artist was. I'm not going to give their name, but yes, this is an absolutely true story. This artist had contacted them about, because he saw that TSR was coming back. Didn't really know what it was about. Just saw that TSR was going to come back. Thought that would be cool, and was approached and told, "Yeah, we're going to send you a blank contract. Put your social security number on it and all your information, and we'll get back to you when we have work for you." And luckily, this person had enough intelligence to say, this doesn't sound right. Talked to Lloyd about it. Lloyd said, no, definitely do not sign a blank contract with your social security and everything.
Yeah, it's like, what are you're giving away?
Who does business like that? Nobody does business like that in our
industry. Well, here's the thing. The new TSR is setting like a new business standards. That's how they're dealing with their freelancers. And the other thing, now, this is something I cannot confirm. All right, I'm going to throw it out there. It could be just from nervous freelancers. But I've heard from multiple sources that there are a number of publishers in the OSR and beyond that are telling folks, if you take a job with new TSR, don't come looking to us to get work, because basically your reputation is going to be tarnished. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm kind of torn between the two. It's kind of like
I can see their point, Eric. I can see their point. I don't necessarily agree with it, because I think you should be able to work for wherever you want to work for. And but I do understand that that the connotations are there, right? I mean, it has to be. Yeah. I mean, if you have if you have a movie and who's the guy? Who's the pervert producer? Harvey Weinstein. If I'm going to make a movie and I hire Harvey Weinstein to be the producer, well, I can understand why some actors might not want to work for him. They might say, this guy's got a reputation; it's a bad one, and so we're going to stand clear. Now, should I be able to hire him? I guess. I mean, well, now he's been convicted, but before he was convicted, I mean, I guess you have the right to do whatever you want, but you also have the right. You also sometimes face consequences for that. So I don't know how I feel about it, Eric. I can understand, but I can understand what they're saying, because most of these OSR guys, Eric, they're not big time. They can't afford the loss of, say, 100 customers. I mean, that would kill them. 100 customers. A lot of these OSR guys, that would tank a Kickstarter. That they can't afford to be connected to something like this, because it's going to impact their bottom dollar. And none of these OSR guys are rich, except for Skeeter. None of them are rich.
Independently wealthy is what I've heard. Listen, I can actually see something that we don't normally see in this industry. And I think one of the bigger names to do it was Gareth Skarka when he was doing work on the new Star Trek IP. He started writing as a pseudonym because he was toxic because of the Far West Kickstarter being, hold on, let me check my watch, nearly 10 years late. Okay, when I have my anniversary in November, we'll be 1 month short of 10 years past due. We're actually coming up on 10 years after it got kicked, but that's not the point. So when you're in that situation, right? When you're in that, but you do good work, it's like, all right, well, I can't be associated with Morpheus, because they don't want me damaging their rep, but they'll put me in as Michael Brophy, which was like his mother's maiden name and his middle name. There you go. But those secrets don't last long. So can I see people going, well, maybe I can write a little stuff and I'll just do it under a pseudonym and I'll get paid. But you know what? Just be careful, because this secrets don't last long in a community or an industry as small as ours. They don't. So,
like I said, Eric, I mean, I'm not for blacklisting anybody, but there is a penalty sometimes be paid being associated with certain people. There's certain people I wouldn't want you and I we both had people that wanted to be on our show. We said no, because we're like, nope, we don't do that, or that's not what we talk about, or we don't want to deal with it, and that we didn't. It's not like we blacklisted them, but it's just that they don't fit in what we want to do here. And nothing against them, but the same thing with publishing. You can you say, look, I don't mind hiring this guy for art, but if I hire this guy over here, he's got some stuff that's really shady, or he's been associated with some really weird people. And there's people in our industry now that if you were doing a Kickstarter, you wouldn't. I mean, I'm talking about big names that you'd probably sit there and think, gosh, I mean, right now, would you do a Kickstarter with Jeff Leeson, or Jim Ward? I probably not, because at least wait till this thing shakes out.
Right. I mean, well, look at it another way. What if Judges Guild started putting out feelers for freelancers to raise money to pay
that's
off
a great
their
example.
product?
Yeah, great example. Nobody works with Judges Guild anymore. Nobody in the industry works with Judges Guild anymore because of the stuff that Bob said. The fact he was completely unrepentant. We've had people like Janelle and Goodman have totally distanced at this point, and Frog God, we sued Bob and won because of his comments. So yeah, that's a great example of somebody that you might want a job, but man, you got to think about, God, if I work with these guys, do I really want to work with these guys? And
it's a small industry. It's not so. Once you start fucking with your opportunities and it's just right or wrong. I'm not saying it right or wrong has nothing to do with it. It's reality. People are like, well, what happened to Judges Guild shouldn't have happened. They should be able to separate the man from the company. The man is the company. Okay, Bob Bledsoe II, Bob Jr. is Judges Guild. It is the same individual as the company.
That's a great point, Eric, because there's a lot of times, like we talk about WotC. WotC does some dumb things, but it's not the whole company WotC. It's one employee that works for WotC. When you have these smaller companies, it's the whole company. Usually you have one person, and that's the guy running the company, and that's it, and that's everybody. And that's when you get into trouble, is because you're not, because you could say like, well, this one guy at Watts, I mean, I don't know who gave the command to sue Weiss and Hickman. That was stupid, but somebody thought that would be a great idea somewhere. But that wasn't all of Watts. I'm sure that every person at Watts didn't agree with that decision.
Right.
Said, that sounds like a great idea. As a matter of fact, I've talked to somebody at WotC, some people that say they thought it was a terrible idea and didn't know it was going to happen until it happened. So, but yes, in the case of Bob, he is Judges Guild, unfortunately, and because of that, their whole name's been, which I'm really sad. I'm a huge Judges Guild fan, but it's been absolutely dragged. And not just that, but the fact they have a Kickstarter that's about 8 years old now. It's never going to be finished. At this point, it's never going to be finished.
Now the new TSR is 4 people. All right, we've got Justin LaNasa, was it Jeff Duck Leeson, Deinhardt, which are all chiefs, and then you have Executive Vice President Ernie Gygax. The reality is the money man and the chief executive officer, so the one that calls the only shots that actually matter, is LaNasa. So if you read the social media, usually you can tell whether it's LaNasa or Deinhardt, because these are really the two that I think do most of the social media stuff. If they're arguing with the people on social media, if they're arguing with the community and calling them names and then getting excited because I accused this person of being a dickwad and I won the conversation, that's usually not LaNasa. If somebody's trying to come in and try to make overtures poorly worded, it's usually Deinhardt. That's my experience. That's my guess. Am I sure I'm totally right? No, but when one side starts accusing one side of being woke, and then the other, then all of a sudden, 5 hours later, the same social media account is saying that we love everyone and we want an inclusive gaming environment,
right,
and we have no issue with anybody's sexual orientation and gender identity. You know that there's more than one person behind it, and there's internal strife.
And that's why you have a marketing department, and that's why you hire a PR firm. Even if it's just one person, it doesn't have to be a department. It can be one person. That person handles all your social media. That way you don't have these 5 different voices all saying different things and all sticking their foot in their mouth and saying different stupid stuff. You have the one person who is the final arbiter of what goes on the page and says, we're not going to put this up because, and here's the reason why. I don't care if you believe this or not, it's going to affect your business in this way. And that's one thing that almost all businesses should look at doing, even if you're a smaller business. You should always have that one last person that before it goes on social media, and somebody that's tech savvy, that's media savvy, and that's with the program.
And thick skin. You need thick skin for that. And you don't shoot from the hip.
No.
Shooting from the hip is the worst thing to do.
You say very generic stuff. If apology is called for, you apologize. If restitution is called for, you restitute. And that's one of these problems. A lot of these companies, like Judges Guild or like this TSR, is that they don't have that person. And it's very important to have, if nothing else, have a committee of people that report to one person that posts stuff. Don't have 5 different people with Twitter accounts. That is not going to help you.
Here's the thing. LaNasa is treating the TSR and the Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum accounts as if they are personal social media accounts. Yeah. And not only are you getting stuff that's business related, he's also turning it into a personal. And I did an episode a day or two ago about what not to do on social media, and I was aiming it at small business, because large businesses don't have these issues. For now they do, but I mean, not to the same extent. But you have to have different accounts for your personal shit and your commercial. And honest to God, my personal opinion, if you're going to be running a business of any size that you hope to make a profit off it, you don't have a personal account that you use. And your business account is strictly for business, and you don't put personal opinions, you don't put politics, you don't put social issues into it. It should just
be for pure, if you have an account on Twitter, if you want to know how to use Twitter, use it for promotional only. You only promote things with it. You don't state any opinions on it or any personal information at all on your Twitter account. Mm-hmm. You just use it like, look, we have this product coming out this day. We've got a sale going on here. I know with Frog Eye Games, we have no communication on our Twitter account. All it is it's pure promotion. It's just, this is going to come out this day. We have a sale coming this day. There's no interaction with any fans on that Twitter account. It's all just promotion only. And that's where you get in trouble, like you said, Eric, when you start personalizing anything on Twitter and you personalize it under your name, because he has TSR Games saying stuff. It's not just, LaNasa,
and that's
TSR Games.
And here's another thing, folks. And listen, it's something I did not talk about, but it's certainly come up because people have sent me screenshots. Who you follow on Twitter, who you follow and friend on Facebook. Now we've seen the Facebook thing. People research that, and if you are, say, following a white supremacist, for example, it's going to come up, and people are going to start sharing that screenshot. Oh, look at what company is following this individual.
And not just a white supremacist, a white murderer supremacist.
Well, all right, I'm sorry. Kim George, Jim has nothing to do with this. Jim has frequently said he has no clue what's going on, which, you know what? Jim has the right to say that. He's certainly not a business partner in the normal sense. At most, Jim is a freelancer. He's not listed as one of the 4 principals. Jeff Leeson has not said anything publicly that I've seen. You're right, but he's still one of those. He's still part of TSR. So in Jeff's case, Jim, in theory, has a bit more space between him and the bags of shit because he is peripherally attached because he works with the company. But Jeff is part of the company. Jeff is part of TSR. And there's not much he can do right now because that's the apartment that he's living in. It's in this museum. So he's really in a rough spot. I have empathy for him. I can understand, and I'm glad he's not saying anything because that wouldn't help anything. So,
and when we talked about this at the beginning of the show, but we'll reiterate again. Guys like Ernie and Jim and Jeff, they don't have retirement. They worked in an industry where there's not that doesn't exist. I mean, it doesn't. Jim has had major medical issues the past few years. He's lost most of one leg. I think he's lost the other foot because of diabetes. He is extremely in debt for medical bills. He's not going to give money back at this point of anybody giving him money for anything. Ernie has had major health issues. all these guys, that they're kind of behind the eight ball. That they can't afford to give this money back, so they're in the extremely unenviable position of either just keeping their mouth shut or having to issue non-apology apologies, kind of like Jim Ward's was when he just said, "Look, if you're upset, all I can tell you is I created this game, Giant Lands, and that's it." I mean, they're trying not to be involved, but they also can't turn the money down at this point, whatever LaNasa is paying them. And so I think a lot of them are just like Jeff Leeson, probably just keeping his head down and hoping this thing blows over. And I doubt they have any effect on what LaNasa is saying. They can't call up Justin and say, "Hey, man, you need to lay off this." He's not going to listen to them. He doesn't care.
No.
He's going to say whatever he wants to say because he's the one paying the bills. So there's no effect. They have no effect on what he says or does. And I feel bad. I feel really sorry for him. I feel bad for him because they're stuck in a really terrible position. It's easy for us to say, well, they should just tell them to F off or just do like Jeff D did and said, "Here's your check back. I'm not working for you anymore." These guys really, they can't. That they have no other income. I mean, if you notice, Jim Ward just sold off some really, really valuable parts of his collection recently. I'm sure he needs the money. Yeah, and that so it. All you can really do is keep your head down and hope it doesn't get worse, I think, in some of their positions. People like Jim and them that are associated with them. But they're not going to go cold turkey and just give it up and say, no.
They can't. They can't. I mean, again, it's people in that position that you have to have some empathy for and understand why they are making the decisions that they are making. Even if you think that they are unwise decisions, which I would say are, I understand why they're doing it. I'm blessed to be in a situation where I don't have to make decisions that I would consider to be, in my humble opinion, unethical, or supporting somebody that's unethical. But I'm not in that position. I have the ability to be able to say I would never do that, and then suddenly I'm in that position, and then who knows?
I can say that right now, but I don't know what the future holds for me. Maybe I say that now, then. Maybe 5 years from now, I mean, I've got type 1 diabetes myself. Maybe I lose my foot. Maybe I have issues. Maybe my wife passes away. I mean, although we actually have retirement savings, but, things can happen, catastrophic things. Maybe I'm stuck in a position where I can't say no to somebody. I'm not saying that can't happen. And so that's why I say I feel bad for these guys. I don't appreciate people that have zero compassion. I was told, so this is a true story. I'm leaving out all the names, but I know an artist friend of mine who did work for a project, and the person on the project was accused of something, and his friends told him, "You need to just quit. You need to quit and just leave." He's like, "I can't. They're paying my salary. If I quit, I cannot pay my rent. I can't pay my doctor bills. I can't get food on my table." And he was told, "Tough. You need to go by your principles. You just need to quit. We don't care if your kids starve." He was literally told that. He was told, "I don't care if your kids starve and your pets starve and your wife starves. You need to go by your principles and quit this job." With no alternative. Nobody was offering him, like, "I'll pay for you instead." He was just told, just leave there. And that's what gets me, is when people have no compassion. People say, "Oh, well, you should just quit if your principles are being violated." Man, sometimes that is not an option for some people.
Yeah.
And Eric and I are lucky we have options. I mean, we don't have kids living at home. We don't have, well, at least, Eric's got health problems, but he's got a pension. Thank God for that. And
I've got a pension. I've got health insurance.
I've got a wife. I've got retirement too through my wife. So we have options. But some of these guys, the old school gamer guys, and we've talked to a bunch of them at conventions. You talk to them, and their stories, a lot of them are the same. Is that they worked in gaming, but they didn't get a pension. They didn't get retirement. They didn't get savings. And here they are in their 60s, and they don't, right before Medicare kicks in at 65, they're having to pay all their own bills. They're having to pay all their own health bills. And they have no, if they're not writing anymore, if they're not putting forward Kickstarters or games, they have no income. Their income is, is really bad. Now, some of them were lucky, and we've talked to a few of these guys that after they left TSR or whatever, they got jobs in the real world, so to speak. They worked for computer companies. They worked for, they did it. They actually had a real job for a while, and so they have stuff to back them up. But a lot of these guys, they just worked in gaming for the last 30 or 40 years, and I'm sorry, RPGs have a really terrible retirement plan. They pretty much don't have a retirement plan. You do work for hire in the most part. If you're lucky like Jim, at least Jim owns the rights to Metamorphosis Alpha, and he's able to put out a new version of that every 4 or 5 years that helps him get money. But a lot of those guys don't even have a signature work like Metamorphosis Alpha to put
out. Ty Beard has a quote of the night, and I actually just took a screenshot so I wouldn't lose it. It's easy to demand that someone else sacrifice everything for your principles.
Yeah, and I've seen that a lot. The case in point infuriated me because it was actually that's pretty much what it was. You need to quit your job because the guy you work for did something bad, and we don't care if you can feed yourself. I mean, that's basically what I saw the screenshots. He showed them to me. I was like, I just, that's unbelievable. That's so little compassion for other people. You know, it's unbelievable. Yes, that is a good point. And so I'm not going to, these guys are caught up in a terrible situation. I feel bad for Ernie and Jim and Jeff and all those guys. But
yeah. And here's the thing. Again, I feel bad for the situation that they are in, and I know people are going to some people are going to be like, "Oh, how could you say that, Tenkar?" But I'm going to say the following: we wouldn't be in the midst of this bag of shit if Ernie hadn't pitched the museum idea to LaNasa. That's really, I mean, honest to God, I hate to say it that way. Now, I'm sure LaNasa is probably, in my opinion. Let me just make sure this is my opinion so Justin doesn't get all bent. Justin is a snake. All right? And this is, for him, it's a business opportunity that he's going to try to take as much from and as little time as possible before he slinks back to North Carolina. I don't see him staying in Lake Geneva longer than to make the most money out of the city as he can and then try to flip this, personally. I don't see it as a long-term investment for somebody.
I don't think it's long-term, but you and I disagree a little bit on this because I told you the other day I have a theory. I think if LaNasa launched Kickstarter tomorrow, that they would fund it in 2 hours because I think there's enough people that are sucked into this that don't understand what's going on that they would say, "Oh wait, this guy he hates the right people. Or the right people hate him, so I'm going to throw $100 at this guy."
Yeah. Time out. You had Deinhardt as one of the team, right? So we know what the goal for the Kickstarter is, right? $100, because that's how much Giant Land was looking to get. That's why Deinhardt could say, "We were 3,000% funded with a week to go." He raised $3,000 on
$100
against 100.
Yeah.
Yes. That's fucking awesome. At least the math is easy enough to do. Thank you, Mr. Deinhardt. But that is bullshit. Now, could they? Excuse me. My fake beer, my hop tea is giving me hiccups. Could they fund? Would they fund? Yeah, certainly. Now, here comes another question. And just a curious one. We all know Kickstarter reserves the right to ban or not use certain people to use Kickstarter. They might have to go to Indiegogo, and that would be an interesting thing. I'm not saying I have no inside knowledge on this, but Kickstarter certainly leans in a direction that is polar opposite of the public stance that LaNasa and new TSR is taking. So I'm just curious if they could even get on that platform.
I don't know. I don't know how close they would look at that because as long as they weren't they haven't broken any laws yet or violated any huge. I mean, I'd be interested to see how they did that, and they could always get around that too because Jim Ward could launch a Kickstarter. I mean, other people could launch a Kickstarter. It doesn't have to be under the name TSR. I don't know. I just think that there's enough people out there that are taken in by this that if they said they wanted money. I'm actually, honestly, I'm really surprised he hasn't asked for donations yet. I really am. I'm surprised they haven't said, "Look, we're under attack. Everybody needs to send us $50, and because this is awful, and all these woke slime bags are trying to destroy us.
We got to pay Ernie and Duck, and they need to.
I think they would get a lot of money. I think they would get thousands of dollars. I really do. If all they had to do was ask that, and I think people would send them in. People that don't even have money. I've seen people that don't have money contribute to stuff like this. I'm eating food stamps, but you know what? You guys need this $50 more than I do. Here you go. Yeah. Here's the $50. Because I think what you're doing is the right thing to do, and they've got people enough. Look, go to the TSR Facebook page. They've got people snowed where people think, oh, this is the return of TSR. This is going to be great.
They're gonna publish Dungeons and Dragons again. It's coming home.
They're gonna buy. They're gonna buy Dungeons and Dragons from WotC. It only costs $800 million, but they're gonna buy it.
LaNasa is the next Trump.
If I was advising LaNasa and I had no scruples and I was a scumbag, that's exactly what I tell them to do. I'd say you need to either launch a Kickstarter real quick here, put up a Patreon, or ask for donations and say we need donations because these awful people are trying to destroy us. WotC's trying to kill us, man. They're trying to destroy us, and you get the money in there. People just, Patreon's non-refundable. It'd be great.
Patreon would certainly not. He would get canceled within a month or two because people would trend it. They canceled other people on the right. He will not last long on Patreon at all. Kim, somebody needs to buy out LaNasa. I actually think, it's certainly a strong possibility that part of his game plan was to put himself in a position where Witches of the Coast would come along and say, listen, you are causing a problem for our business model. You are muddying the waters, which I really think is what he's trying to do, is muddy the waters for his own benefit. But I was also thinking that it could be that he was looking to get a buyout from TSR. I'm not saying it's likely. I'm saying it's a possibility that he would want that. And here's the thing. If he did get that, guess who would get no money out of that deal? The other three. That man would take the money and slink back to North Carolina. He's not a team player. I will say, this is the rumor mill only. I've heard somebody who's very connected tell me that it will be a cold day in hell for WotC to do that. Now, that's all I've heard. This person knows people in WotC and has said that is not going to happen. They will not pay this guy off. They said that they would much rather crush him like a bug than pay him off, and which they could do either one. They could do either because they have enough money to, basically do whatever they like. So that's just, for what it's worth, that's somebody that I trust his opinion. Their opinion. Dollar Tree dice for $4 and a TSR logo on it. I thought they're charging 15. Somebody said they're charging 15 for them. Well, it was 4. Maybe they realized that they were getting too many sales. Yeah. Oh man, I might have given LaNasa a great idea. LaNasa's watching the stream. He probably is like, oh, I didn't think about a Patreon. That's a great. Goodman Games does not have the money to waste on buying out. No, they're not going to buy it. Let me put it this way. What are they going to get? They can buy them out. What are they getting? There's nothing. There's no there. Right. Here's the thing. If Goodman had that money to spend, they would have bought out Judges Guild, not just cherry picked the two products. They didn't do that. Now, is it because Bob Jr. is trying to get probably 2 or 3 times the value of Judges Guild because he believes it's worth more than it is? Probably. But part of the reason Goodman probably bought the products they did is because they have a vested interest in those products, which were Janelle's products, which were the biggest money makers Judges Guild had. So that's probably a big reason why Goodman bought those specific products. And I'll be honest with you, as a Judges Guild fan, I love Judges Guild. There's very few of their products that are worth any money at this point, unless you're just a full-on nostalgia hound. Nobody's going to get, what was the Dwarven Mine, Glory Hole Dwarven Mine? Nobody's looking for that like, oh, Glory Hole Dwarven Mine. What about Scrap Faggot Green? Things that are just hardly named. Corsairs of Talabar, I've got to have that one. Yeah, that there's just nothing there that besides the stuff that Janelle wrote. There's really very little there of any substance or worth. So Goodman bought the stuff that they cherry picked the best stuff there. They bought it. Mark says he believes that TSR asked for help today. Oh, I'd be interested. I saw them trying to rally the troops. They weren't asking for money, but they were like, Wizards of the Coast has this in their sights. They're looking to ban us or unperson us. Sure. TSR is doing a great job in getting themselves banned. And I understand that there's a certain badge of honor in getting yourself banned. It's like, hey, look, we got banned. But there comes a point when your negative advertising just becomes negative. And I think we're going to see that. And unlike Mike, I know Mike says, there are comic book creators that can play the outrage brigade off into millions of dollars of income. But the comic book industry is a lot larger than the OSR. And I don't know. And listen, what is the biggest complaint about old school gamers? They're cheap fucks, right? Isn't that always
Sure.
the complaint?
That's what we always bitch about because they don't want to pay for it. Yeah.
It's like I don't want to pay for anything. They want everything on the arm. They want it for free. So I do I think that they can do successful Kickstarters and raise tens of thousands of dollars? Sure. And after that first Kickstarter or two was a year or two late or longer, I don't think they'll be getting much more from that. I don't think that their hope, I think, is to license. If they can get others to like, but they're really making it a small group of people that are willing to license their stuff. And there aren't too many creators out there that are going to be looking to work with them. They might have a customer base. Don't get me wrong. They might have activated, the lemming drones that believe that this is the new TSR is God rest his soul, Gary Gygax Sr. coming back from the grave, and but it's not, and we know that because we're all competently thinking individuals.
People they look, and I think we talked about this a little bit last week. People had a bad year last year. We had the pandemic. We had a lot of people die. We had just everything was canceled. It was just miserable last year. People were looking for hope and they want to believe stuff. And so when they open up their browser and they see TSR is back, they don't want to think about it too much. They're just like, TSR is back. Hey, the Jim Ward, Ernie Gygax, this is awesome. And they don't do all the research. They don't do all the reading. They don't do the due diligence. And that's why I don't even want to blame them, a lot of them, too much either. That they just don't know. They haven't done the research. They don't understand what's going on. And I've talked to those people. I've talked to them one-on-one. They'll IM me after the show and stuff, say, I don't understand what's going on with TSR. Explain it to me. When I explain it to them, they're like, oh, they're not bringing back D&D. No, they do not own D&D. They can't bring back D&D. Oh, well, I thought something different. And
what about Gamma? What about Gamma World? What about they can publish Gamma World? They got Jim Ward.
Yeah.
They can publish Gamma. Oh, they can't.
No,
but why? It's TSR.
Mm-hmm. And so they don't understand, and they're just not. Look, sometimes we don't understand that of the gaming community, there is an entire swath of thousands of gamers out there that are not plugged into this nonsense. They don't get online and do this stuff. They just play their games. They have fun. They go to conventions. They're not plugged in. They don't know all this crap going on. I've talked to a couple of UK gamers in the past week. For some reason, UK has not got the news on this, and they did not know anything about this, like nothing. They have not heard one thing about this. And they're like, what is going on with this TSR stuff? And I had to explain the whole thing to them. And these are pretty intelligent people. They're just not plugged in. And that's the sad thing is most of these people, they go to the TSR page or they go on here. All they know is there's a museum, Ernie's there, Jim's there. Why is everybody so mad at these guys? I don't understand.
It's exhausting. That's why starting next week, at most, we'll give 10 to 15 minutes to TSR. Same amount of... Unless Wizards of the Coast is something really fucked up.
We got this out of our system. I think we got this out of our system, Eric. What do you think?
Yeah, well, listen. Like I said, that's why I'm reserving the 10 to 15 minutes because I know that the powers that be at TSR are not going to be able to keep their mouths shut. So you just know there's some stupidity going to happen. By the way.
Sure.
We actually have the stewards listening. Liz, thank you.
Oh my, yeah.
We
just classed up totally.
Yeah, I think let me button up my shirt. We've hit the big time. I look underdressed.
Where's my pants? Oh, they're over there.
Yeah, mine are in the other room. So that's why I only.
Sorry, Liz. You and Mike don't get pants. Sorry.
Fuck the button, man. I can't get it. I'm sorry. I'll just fold it in so you don't see the white.
Yes, next week we're going back to our format where we're going to promote some Kickstarters. We got Tom Wilson, who's been a guest on the show before. We love Tom. He also runs ShireCon. We're going to do a little talk about ShireCon. We're going to talk about Back to Basics. That's his Kickstarter he's running. He had this little magazine called Back to Basics. He's going to compile them all. I am going to give this 100% thumbs up recommendation because these are
2 thumbs
awesome. We've done a pretty good. We've this is one of our longest up pretty soon here. We're
we are coming up on 2.
Like I said, we got it out of our session. We got this out of our system. And we'll spend a little more time talking about the TSR fiasco as time goes on, but we're not going to focus.
It won't be the focus of the show now. And folks, listen, we did this episode with its own focus, which was let's get away from the social issues, let's get away from the politics, which is all that's up on social media now, and get down to why myself and Mike feel personally that LaNasa is a grifter. I would also like to add, in my personal opinion, I think he's a piece of shit. But that's just my own personal opinion. I'm sure he has similar opinions about me. At least not about the grifter part, but probably that I'm obnoxious, and that nobody watches this. And I should get my own tank so I can get viewers, because that's apparently what people like to see.
He's definitely going about things the wrong way. I'll say I don't know if I'll call him POS yet, but I think he's a grifter. I think he's using false pretenses to get money from people. So and just the way he talks, and I'm not going to go over it again, But yeah, we didn't do any so we didn't do politics. We didn't do politics because you don't need politics to get this guy. You don't need it at all. He's hung himself by just being a very disreputable business person. So
the politics and the social issue are a smokescreen that LaNasa has put up, so he can be like, "Oh, people are attacking me because of my political views." No, LaNasa, Justin, if you want to know why I don't like you, it's because your fucked up business practices and your attitude and your inability to answer straightforward questions with anything other than "you're a dick and I don't like you." That's great. I know you don't like me, and I can be a dick. So I'm not going to argue with either of those statements. It's really, that's what it comes down to. So how do I really feel? Well, again, I'm holding back just a wee bit, because my son has told me that although his mother taught him how to curse, taught him the curse words, I actually taught him how to curse, because the New York City cop, we have a special talent with that. I am not going to waste my efforts on Justin, because in the end of this, he is inconsequential to our hobby. He's a turd right now that's stirring a lot of shit. But what do you do with turds, man? You wash them off your shoe, and they go down the sewer. In the end, that's what's going to happen. He's not going to be here for the long haul, and hopefully Ernie and Jim are around here for the long haul. Hopefully they can clean themselves of the association they've put themselves into.
And give a good thought to Luke. Thanks for popping on the show. Comments, Luke, because everybody's giving you a good thought. You got a horrible situation here. I don't even know what to. I'm so glad it's not me. That's all I can say, because it sucks. Yeah, it sucks. So
it's a no-win situation.
No, it is.
Folks, as always, we're still in the midst of the world of pandemic. The Delta variant is apparently popping up on the West Coast. Mike and I happen to be vaccinated. We are not suggesting that anybody has to get vaccinated. We're not medical professionals. I am going to say, please use your common sense to keep yourself, your friends, your family, your loved ones healthy and safe. If you're not healthy, you can't help them out. Talk to a medical professional that you trust, get their opinion, and make your own decisions. Okay? Be safe, be well, God bless. Friday night, 8 p.m., Glenn Housham and I on Dungeons, Dragons, and Discourse.
Old Man
Grognard will have Jason Elliott of the prior TSR.
Jason TSR Elliott? Oh my gosh.
TSR Elliott.
I got you.
So we'll be doing a live stream. You can ask your questions. We will do our best to answer the ones that you ask. I'm sure there might be some that run into that legal ground of Jason can't answer it. So if it happens, it happens. Don't feel bad if we don't answer
watching.
it.
I'll be listening to that. That sounds awesome.
Okay, folks, that's 8 p.m. Friday. Knock on wood.
Next week, Tom Wilson. Thanks to everybody listening to us. Subscribe if you haven't already. Appreciate it.
Yes, please subscribe, like, comment. If you're watching this later, your comments are priceless, literally priceless in the algorithm. So please, if you're watching this later, not live, comment. And to everybody who commented live, thank you, because you drive the conversation. Without you, this would have been about like an hour long. With you, an hour, 2 hours and 20 minutes. Oh my God, Michael, we got to go.
Oh, too much.
We got to go.
Later.
My old man bladder is calling me.
I put my pants on.